Baabaa Moisar, and welcome to our live reading. Our scroll for today will be Actual Fact, series number 93, Pagadad Shalir Nawar, Wu Narar, God of Lights and Fire. A little bit about the author, Baabaa Yaanun. Baabaa Yaanun, the master teacher, His Excellency Malachi Z. Kabina York Okran. Kobina means born Tuesday, June 26, 1945 AD, in Ghana, Africa. Notice the scroll of eyes, which was what we have now, as all eyes will see. All right. So we're not going to get distracted for coming together and all putting our minds in one oversoul from our overseers to tap into the scroll of eyes. All right. And let each one get as far as their DNA allows. So in a lot of our actual facts, it starts with the 9 reasons to be a Nuwapian and not them. Sometimes we read it and sometimes we don't. It's a scroll within itself. So when you have time, go back and read that. So let's get right into our reading. Before we get started, does anybody have anything they want to say? And feel free to interrupt if you have any questions as you're reading.
Nafir Sabat Tat. Glad to be here.
It's great to see you, Amal. Yes, welcome. All right. So let's get right into our reading. Pagadad Shalir Nawar Wu Narar, the God of light and fire. 1. Lahe Kum Aye Muraru. Marura, Karadu Shalil Pa Shalir Wu Nawar, which translates to, for you, my beloved children of Wu Nawab. Many are being deceived by false beings of Nawar lights and Narar fire, who pretend to be Gadadu deities of good. And now it's time to know who you are. All right. So despite of what I like to say about myself as I'm reading the scrolls, which I did not write, and it's an honor and a pleasure to read these scrolls, which has helped me tremendously. Now I like to say, if I knew everything that was in the scrolls, I would not be sitting here. I'd be on some other dimension. So obviously I'm here growing and expanding along with everybody else that's also sitting here. So let's grow and expand, and we have no time to put each other down. We have no time to distract from this doctrine getting out. All right. And it's time to live and embody it. But first we have to know what we're embodying so we don't get deceived. All right. And you take time to know and take time to explain away. Because Bible said you can't take the illusions away from somebody. You have to explain it away. All right. And Bible has taken all these times, step by step, explaining and getting us thus far. All right. And we still have quite a ways to go. All right. So let's keep that in mind. All right. No one's sitting so high where they can look at anybody so low. All right. Because who made that pickup in 2023? I didn't make it. All right. So we have until, that's just things to consider. So I'm working on myself, and this forum is created for people who want to know who Baabaa Yaanun is and what's in the scrolls. So they're not at the mercy of what other people tell them. They can make their own direct connection to Baba, which is what he likes. All right. So get to know Baba's mind. You're going to be expanding your own. All right. You're not at the mercy the same way as Zamal Tatu. We have our own bag. All right. We have our own bag so we can carry our own things. And that's taking responsibility of your own destiny to become Gadadu and Gadatatu. All right. Once again. All right. So let's go in that. All right. And see what's going on. 1. Lahe kum ayer marura karadu shalil wunawab. For you, my beloved children of Wunawab. Many are being deceived by false beings of Nawar lights and Narar fire, who pretend to be Gadadu deities of good. And now it's time to know who you are. 2. In the end times, Baabaa Yaanun or Yananin, raises up amongst his own Shakasu people to be their Munzar, warner, and Mudai, guide, to Mujdad, reform teachings, to warn, guide, and reform. It's Reformation time. 3. The Ancient of Days, Dahutwi, who Nazul incarnates at the end of every 24,000 years of 6,000-year Nawarat cycles of years for the renewal and prescription of the upcoming 24,000 years, be they physical and spiritual, wakadatat, times to come. Wakatat means times. All right. So for those of us who are new, all right, in this group, Bob is talking about the 6,000 years, because we have something that Bob explains in other scrolls, and it looks like this. So imagine you have a circle of time. All right. So we'll start with this, which ironically is also the symbol for female. It's also the X. All right, or your starting point. All right, so that's just interesting side pocket. So up here, you have Atun. Down here, you have Anun. All right, the rising is Atum, and the setting is Amun. All right, so you have these different points in different seasons where the sun is doing different things. All right, so you will have the first sun cycle, first moon cycle, sun, and moon. So each time we went through each season, it takes 24,000 to complete the whole circle. But in each circle, you have a season of energy. All right. So that's what's going on in these seasons. All right. So not only are we, that's what makes it so special. We're finishing so many cycles. So we're not just finishing the moon cycle, we're also completing the entire cycle. All right. So there's a lot of resetting. All right. So now we know the Hutwi, he comes on the scene every 24,000 years. Yanun comes on the scene, what is it, 76? No, Yanun. I don't remember now, but the Hutwi is 24,000.
My sister.
Yes, it's about that. Baabaa
Is on the scene now, and he's also sent out words of wisdom. He's, as a warner, he has also sent out words that should not be ignored. Have you ever met, or how many times have you met the very deity that you're speaking of now? Have you ever met him?
Zamalta, I think that's getting distracting because it's about the meanings of the minds. And
Right.
I don't want to go into if somebody has met him, old timers versus new timers and all this other things. It's a distraction.
I think it's clear that you should at least let the people you're speaking to about this deity that you're speaking with know, have you ever met him? It's just a yes or no question.
So let me ask the rest of the platform. Unmute yourself, and has anyone asked if I've ever met him, and do you care if I ever met him physically?
It's just a question. Have you ever met him?
Zamalta, let the other people answer.
Okay.
Baba has been locked up for 23 years.
Yeah, I actually never met the master teacher, but I honestly don't think that matters if someone met him or not, because this is a spiritual link for all of us. Physically knowing him doesn't make you any better than someone who never met him. That's just my opinion.
Who else cares if I met him physically? Raise your hand.
I don't think that really matters, because it's really just about the connection you have with the tribe and everything that he's created and brought forth to you. So
does Baba care that I physically met him? Because I can go get a letter where he says that I have. All right. So I'm not going to let people come in and distract and create this division I'm gonna
So,
mute you for a second, Zamaltek,
oh,
because that
one
is a
second.
very
You did
inappropriate.
ask.
Okay. No, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. We come here, we read the scrolls, all right, we get the information out. All right. Yeah, so she's gone. All right.
I think the person at the bottom has his hand raised to speak.
No, it's okay, he's muted. All right. So we're gonna get right back to the scrolls. All right. In the future, because we don't want to turn it into an ego thing. You know, I don't want my ego to get flared or flare anyone's ego or hold things above people's heads. Because the reality is that cheapens the relationship. You know, there's a lot that I could say, and it's not a competition of who knew him longer. Because you just might come in, you might be because there's certain beings that incarnated that Baba came specifically for, that he knows and they don't know him. All right. So I don't want us to get distracted, and don't feel like you're below someone or all these types of hangups. All right. Or someone's above you. All right. We create this divine circle of healing to stop all this games being played so you can make this direct link like I have. All right. And I'm not anyone's gatekeeper. All right. And no one's my gatekeeper. All right. So let's get back into it. All right. And if somebody cares if I met him or know him personally, physically, if anybody cares about that, let me know and you can explain to me why. All right. But I haven't come across that yet. Besides that, Zamaltek, who just came in here. All right. So let's get back in before this distraction. Yes, Zamaltek.
Nothing. Never mind.
Okay.
You can keep reading.
Okay. All right. So we don't got so much time. We need this scrolls out. All right. There's certain activations that has to happen to certain people's genetics. And I don't know whose genetics, and I'm not taking responsibility for mishandling anyone. I'm gonna read the scroll as Baba wrote it. So you can make that genetic journey, and possibly you could start reading the scrolls for yourself or whatever you feel activated to do. I don't know. I can't speak for what you're gonna experience. All right. And no one could speak for what I'm gonna experience. That's between me and Baba. All right. And this is a hand drawing from Baba to me. All right. So he knows my spiritual signature. That's my passkey, so that he will give each woman as he sees fit. All right. So all that doesn't matter. Let's not get distracted. You start comparing yourself to others. We're not going to do that. All right. Heal yourself. So we talked about the 6,000 year cycle. 4 of them equals 24,000. All right. Which is where Tahuti comes. All right. And shows up in the flesh, and we have him because we're in that time right now. So 4, and in these days, there is much troubles to see on all sides. 5, there will be many wars and weapons given to the mind by Mudwawu demons. 6, there will be much Mawut or Mawat death. 7, there will be Shakasu people against Shakasu people, Salau race against Salau race, and Takwan nation against Takwan nation, country against country. 8, there will be a rise of new viruses. 9, there will be much sickness and diseases. 10, there will also be famines and droughts. 11, there will be gamarats, floods. 12, there will also be great storms and tornadoes and violent whirling columns of rawak, wind. 13, there will also be great and small earthquakes, trembling, even of the crust from beneath the volcanic forces. 14, there will also rise from the deep Maya hearts, waters, great tsunamis. 15, great and huge sea waves by undersea eruptions. All right. So now you're going to see famines. All right. And you see this one depicted in Africa. You see viruses. This is the big one. All right. The coronavirus. But there's going to be more to come. All right. Then you have, there goes, you see a drought. All right. For the lack of the water, which we saw in current events in what is it called, California. They didn't have enough water, and they had to use swimming pools to put out the fires and such. And then you have the floods. All right. You have dust storms, and there you go with a tornado. All right. So you see all these disruptions and shifts going on all over the planet. You see when the earthquake hit Turkey, all right, you see tsunami waves. It just goes on and on of different things that's happening all over the planet. All right, you see the formed animals. All right, so this frog has something wrong with it. All right, so where it's formed, it's malformed. You have an albino celebrity. All right, which is another form of another malformation. All right, which is what albinism is. So let's continue reading. 16. There will be pestilence. The nuhalat, bees, will depart, and tukatats, frogs, will be ladad, born deformed. Many animals and living creatures with natural bashar, tarhan, skin pigmentation of their tissue will be born albino. All right. So you'll see the rise of albinism. One thing I'm seeing the rise of lately a lot is vitiligo. I'm seeing that on the rise as well, because that's what I do for a living. I do a lot of skin stuff.
Robert, I'm sorry to cut you off, but yes, why is it on the rise like that? I've seen so many people with it now. Usually you rarely see that many people with it, but I have seen at least about 10 people this year. Well, not this year, but last year.
Yeah.
With it. I'm like, you see one. You don't see that many. And it's a lot. What is that? What is going on?
You're talking about the vitiligo?
Yes.
There's a lot of things. Well, the vitiligo can actually be caused by many different things, because most people with vitiligo, they're born and then suddenly a spot may pop up and it may spread, and that's really their melanocytes dying. And there's a lot of things that can attack the melanin. So they can have, there's a lot of things that can go into it. So it could be from toxins, it could be from many different things. And then on top of that, now that they're glorifying it, what we see and what we take in is very important as well. Because as we normalize it, we can, like I was reading something, I'll give an example as a Zamaltat, as a sister, the importance of what we take in, also what we're experiencing on our eyes, because we know that the eyes is an extension of the nervous system. All right. And the nervous system is what regulates all the hormones and everything like that. And the importance of what we're looking at. And I do notice that when you look at something, all right, you can actually start to design that in your environment or in your womb. They actually have things on how that actually works. So that's why sometimes a woman could be impregnated by a different man, but she's admiring someone else, and the child ends up looking like the person that is not even genetically connected to that child. All right. So what we're seeing, because I remember Baabaa said at a certain point, it won't even be healthy to look at them, to listen to them, to take in, because what they're doing is that they keep stimulating the parts of them that they want to keep going. All right. So we have to, that's what that's where I'm assessing and reasoning out, that it's all affecting it, what we're taking in. It's no accident that we're being called to live our culture, and it's actually going to have a protection. All right. Because as we see our culture, it will help what we produce, what we're thinking, what our hormones are responding to. All right. So I think it's all related. It's all related. All right. 17. In these days and times, the undead as specters will walk the Taha earth and plague the living. 18. A bridge will be opened between the dimension of the physical realm and the spiritual realm. This is very key because Bible talks about this gateway and this doorway in other ways as well, in other books. All right, so in these days and time, the undead and specters will walk the Taha earth and plague the living. A bridge will open between the dimensions of the physical realm and the spiritual realm. 19. Gateways opened by Mudwawu, devils or mortals. 20. And Shakasu people will seek and search for the dead who looks on at them. 21. And people will link their living Ka'ahu spirits with the demonic forces of the 100 watchers condemned to roam the earth without human form. A very important scroll that, if you have time, is a very short scroll. After we read this scroll, I recommend to read Feeding the Forces. Feeding the Forces is so important because it talks about what we're going on. And for example, asking me how long I've been in the tribe, does Baba know me physically, even though we have letters together and all that. That's a way to make me upset, so I can open my and then I start being egotistical and have something to prove and be like, well, Baba cares about me and all this other stuff. That opens the gateway so that I can get a walk in. All right. So I had to be mindful of that so I don't get a walk in, because you have these specters that Baba says that the gateways are open. That's why we're breathing. That's why we're reading. So when these distractions come, they can't just come and walk and take over my body. All right. And then affect how my life, and now I'm have something to prove, and I'm living in my ego rather than inside of my soul. Then that's the thing. We got to get through. Baba said live by soul, not spirit. So let's go back to number 21. And people will link their living Ka'ahu spirits with the demonic forces of the 100 watchers condemned to roam the earth without human form. 22. Who will multiply around the Taha earth, seeking to enter physical persons who open up to them in so many ways. 23. Those who are great mukzabu, liars. All right, so these are the different ways people get open to them. Those who are great mukzabu, liars. 24. Those who are sorcerers. 25. Those who are sexually immoral. All right. Baba explained more in the genetic kiss. A lot of us didn't know, all right, about how we influence each other genetically, all right, and how it could be affecting you to this very day. Different intakes that you take, and sexually how people are getting linked and you get off your course, all right. So we learned about that. All right. So that's another book that you can look into, genetic kiss. All right. 26, those who are killers, murderers. 27, those who are adulterers. 28, those who are abominators. All right, so abomination, something, think about anything that goes against nature. All right, it's an abomination. All right. 29, those who abuse strong drinks. All right. Now, a lot of times we didn't know. It was cool. You go out and you get drunk on the weekend, and we didn't know about, all that spirit force, the wines and spirits, and why sometimes people get walk-ins when they get intoxicated, specifically when they're drinking, because drinking is legal and it's normalized. All right. And then when you turn 21, I forgot the legal age to drink, but when you turn, let's say 21 to drink, then the person say, oh, it's 21, I'm gonna take you out and you're gonna get wasted. And it's supposed to be some lighthearted fun, but you realize that you can actually get walk-ins. All right. But we didn't know. That's why we have Baba, all right, to explain. And so those who abuse strong drinks. 30, those who abuse intoxicants. 31, those who abuse their physical katatat, bodies. All right, their physical bodies. So notice The more you take care of your body, it's not vanity to take care of your body. You'll feel better about yourself. The healthier you are, the better person that you can be. The potential to tap into that better person. Because when you feel good in your body, all right, so you don't want to abuse your body, because when you abuse your body, now you have this, your continence drops. It could open a gateway. So you keep yourself healthy, all right? That's a form of psychic self-defense, all right? What's another way? 32, those who slander and gossip. Who cares how long you've been around? That's not my business, all right? So those who slander and gossip, I got work to do on myself. I don't know what that sister is doing over there, all right? That's up to her to rise to where Bob is taking, or for me to do the same, all right? And sometimes it's irresistible. You know, you want to get the dirt or the scoop on somebody, but we know now that opens the door, because the reality is when you're breathing in, you're feeling the support and the protection of Panadaru. And you say, I need healing. I really do. Because if I was where I needed to be, I would be off this planet. I'm being honest. All right. So I'm healing through something. I'm working on something. And my purpose is mixed in a bigger purpose. And I remember that. And I feel the unconditional love that Panadaru is still here. All right. And then when I breathe out, this is all explained in the breath book, by the way. When I breathe out, I breathe. So when you breathe in, you breathe out that same love and healing for your fellow brothers and sisters. All right. So at one time, as the Bridge to Salvation explains, at one time, when Baba met you, you was a wannabe. You wanted to be something other than self and kind. All right. Baba helped to remind you about who you are. So now, when you deal with somebody else, you remember that at one time I was a wannabe, or whatever it is. All right. In whichever way, because people often judge others for something they do in a different way. So you learn to think of more of your healing and healing for us as a people. All right. So that doesn't leave room for slander and gossip. Where's the slander and gossip for there? Somebody's doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Where's the room for slander and gossip when you're really thinking about them healing? And if they take that healing, that's on them. Because Neuroscience of Wunawap says it's our responsibility to be responsive, to respond. That means to regrow those telomeres. I mean, not the telomeres, the neurons, because you can do brain surgery. That's what this scrolls us to do. And you develop, all right? And growth is a process, and you respect the process that you go through. That's where the Ashuk comes in and everybody else, all right? And then you realize how far you've come, all right? That's through Ashuk, all right? And healing is an act of Ashuk. So those who slander and gossip. 33, those who open up their being to beliefs and blind faiths. There's no blind faith. Baba said, don't believe me, check it out. One of his favorite women is women who ask questions. Why do we wear this? You like, there's an answer to that. Why do we wear that? There's an answer to that. Why don't we wear jeans? There's an answer to that. Because the jeans stop you from properly breathing. You're going to create a compromise, because your continence is going to drop when you're not at your optimal. So one of the things, you want to keep your private parts as fresh as possible all the time. All right. You want to keep your breath as fresh as possible all the time. All right. Because it also attracts different types of beings. All right. Both physical beings and also spiritual beings. So ask these questions, because it's going to empower you. When you know something, you can respect it more. You know your body. You took time to know your body. That's not a blind belief. That's a fact. It's an actual fact that's going to empower you. All right. Let's continue. So 34, those who ask spirits or tayafats, ghosts, to enter them, to speak in their demonic tones and tongues, as this ghost specter enable them to speak or babble. All right. So it's like catching the Holy Ghost when you get seances and things like that. A lot of times you're opening yourself up. Baba explained in other scrolls that you open yourself up to opportunistic entities, all right? And they can pretend to be something else because the scroll, it says that beware of those who are pretending, all right? So these are the different ways we're opening ourselves up, all right? So Bob is helping us to create a psychic self-defense. All right. What's another way that we open ourselves
Hello.
up? Yes, Zamal, Rahubat.
Rahul Bazamota. I got a question. You were saying with the spirits, don't let the spirits go into you. Does that? I just want to know, is there any connection with that on some voodoo stuff, or is that bad? Is that good? Like, I'm not confused, but I just want a little bit more understanding, because I know like certain spirits mount you when it comes to voodoo or hoodoo and all that good stuff. But I don't.
Yeah.
But you said the devil spirit, so I know there's a good side of a lot of things. Duality is a good side of everything's a bad side. But I want to know, like, with what you were saying.
Mm. All right. So you see in the Bigfoot scroll, and that's a very good question, because the whole point of when you get to the facts, no matter how that deception comes and no matter what form it takes, you'll be able to recognize it. Whether it takes on a form that's foreign, that you could recognize a mile away, or or it looks like you, and it could pretend to be of you, but it's really not. So in the Bigfoot scroll and what is another scroll? The proof scroll, he talks about it. A lot of those rituals that they're partaking in is the same 6 ether forces, all right, that they get the walk-ins and the seances, and they doing the blood rituals, because when you really think about it, these different forces have not just infiltrated us on the West, they have infiltrated the planet. All right, so Bob is here to liberate not just us on the West, but the entire planet, and lift all the forces that has kept us down on the planet. So what happened, and Bobby explains in Let's Set the Record Straight and other scrolls as well, that when these different, and that's why, okay, that's why the insect is very sacred to us, because the insect has actually saved Africa, because these outsiders, these Europeans and Arabs, they went around the whole exterior of Africa, but they couldn't make it inside. All right, and it was the mosquito, which is one of our sacred symbols in Wusabat, and that's why the praying mantis is another one. I forget why Baba said that one is. And now this didn't just affect the genetics of the people, but it also affected the spirituality. So now what we're doing is we're unraveling ourselves from all the different deceptions, no matter what form it takes. So we don't need to go and get a chicken and cut it, because the forces that we work for are not carnivoristic. All right. The type of what do you call sacrifice? Because they talk about sacrifice. Yes, I'm the guy who likes sacrifice too, but you know what the sacrifice is? The sacrifice is your instant pleasures. I'm going to think about the bigger picture and not that apple pie I want to eat right now, because that might satisfy one of my 30, but I'm going to sacrifice that because I'm going to think about the bigger picture in the long term. So that's what our sacrifice more so looks for. So when you start to see a lot of the same rituals happening on both sides, it's because it is the same entities that's entering and moving throughout these different people. All right. Now the natural side of voodoo, because my family is actually Haitian, and a lot of my family practice. There's a lot of
That's crazy. I'm sorry to cut you off, Zamotas.
yeah.
I'm Haitian as well.
Oh, sakbase.
Nabule.
So so it's like you'll see that I've noticed taking the time to spend with my Haitian family and the spirituality. There is so much that's very similar to Wu Sabat, but you can see where there's been infiltrations. All right. So Baba's taking all the cumbersome parts out. The same thing with yoga practitioners and different people who did breath work. A lot of the time, a lot of it is the same, but what Baba has done was taken all the cumbersome and unnecessary parts out, and now you have the raw and untainted version. All right. So Baba's helping to he's helping to liberate our families from these outside spirit forces that infiltrate us from different angles, and some are obvious and some are not as obvious. All right. But that's the importance of Baba says in another scroll. You always you interrogate before you integrate. So when you think of interrogate, you mean you ask the question before you take it in. So a lot of these seances, you're opening yourself up, and the type of being, because we're already connected to our ancestors, they're talking to us all the time. A lot of times the beings that jump in are these disembodied spirits that they can't. So it's like an opportunity, and it's like, oh, there's a pole, there's a gateway, let's jump through. All right. And anything can come through. All right. And more than likely, most of the times it's not for you. So we don't gamble. That's the thing. Musabat, that's one of our things. We don't gamble. All right. And like if you see a craft, some of the crafts are for you. Some of the crafts are not for you. So you don't randomly get on a craft. You have to get to know, ask questions first. Because Bob said when the crafts come, you don't just get on. And that's why he says study now, because you might come to a time where you don't have the books and you're going to need to know what you know. And not just that, you would have need to, because some things is not going to be in the books, but you would have had need to make those connections so you could have the guidance and you'll be able to tell the difference and distinguish between what an outside voice is versus when that's really for you. And a lot of us haven't figured that out yet because we're still going through our genetic wars. So Bob is helping us through that. All right. And when we're taking care of ourselves, we're empowering, because I could tell you from experience that by doing the breath book and doing these breathing exercises and breathing differently, it's like you have a certain knowingness, and whatever else you're doing, chanting, whatever else you're doing, you'll notice that you're strengthening that. And it's like certain things I might have partaken before. And like recently I had a dream of I was eating like this chicken and shrimp. I was eating it. And then something happened and I felt a little confused and I woke up, but it was such a detail. And then I was like, I was eating that and I didn't know what to. So I kind of felt like ever since I had that dream, I haven't had the desire to eat chicken and shrimp. And I said the chicken and shrimp is actually confusing me. All right. So now you see how we open ourselves up, and Bob is showing us how to close those doors off. He said, collapse that straw. All right. So we could see that portal. I mean, this is a depiction, but when you jump on there and you're playing Russian roulette, we don't do that, right? And it might seem like innocent fun, but you realize that, when you're not in health, you eat a certain way, you're gonna smell a certain way, you're gonna think a certain way, you're gonna behave a certain way, and certain entities, your ancestors may not actually want to come around you, and you'll lose your protections. So that's why we want to raise ourselves. All right. So these are all the ways that we open ourselves up. Bob is still going through it. Those who will akul eat the jasad flesh of creatures, of created creatures, the man blood, meat, or as meal or offerings. All right. So a lot of these ceremonies, they might make an offering, but when you make the offerings, you always take a piece of it too before you make that offering. But you put all that energy, you charge it up, and the animals, adrenaline and all that, you taking that in. All right. 36, those who sacrifice creatures to spirit beings. So Baba asked the question, what kind of God that created all this needs a blood and flesh sacrifice from you? Think about it. All right. 37, those who eat that which is unclean and unhealthy for their katatat bodies. All right. It's a little addictive because, natural nature, like it can technically be an addiction. Those chips taste good, that candy tastes good. But there's a lot that the candy does to disrupt certain connections. All right. So you do research to know what is good to take in. And diagnosis of the races is very important. All right. 38. Those who kill the unborn Karadu children in their Raham womb, both mother and father. All right. A lot of us didn't know. We didn't have the science on bodies, and we had, because Bobby explains in a lot of the master secrets now what happens when we have abortions. All right. And they're like, oh, it's nothing. It's just, there's no life in there. It's not life until, and a lot of us didn't know better. But we opened certain gateways. All right. Because Bobby explains also what could happen with abortions. Well, what was the energy that child came in? So that's an unwanted child. Was a child made in a, And then what ends up can happen, sometimes that unborn child can sometimes linger around and go into the next child that's coming. There's so many ways, all right? But Baba explains all that, all right? Because how can you respect something where you don't even know about it, all right? So you take time, that's what Baba says, you take time to get to know the actual facts, all right? Once you know, though, now you're responsible, all right? 39. These are those, okay, now listen. Baba explains it here. Those who kill the unborn children, the unborn Karadu children in their Raham, womb, both mother and father. These are those who become vessels for foul, unclean specters. All right. And real quick, I knew somebody, they explained something to me. And I was like, wow, I wonder if it had anything to do. He was explaining how his mom was. She was so mean. He was her only child. She was just so mean. She would just be angry all the time. That's what he said. So, I mean, but I met her. She was one of the sweetest ladies. But he said that she ended up having some type of growth in her womb, maybe some type of fibers or something. But it's like he didn't make the connection because he wasn't a Sabian. He was just telling about his life. And he said it's like right when she had the surgery and removed her womb, she became like a whole different person. It's like right after that. So whatever was left back, bacteria, whatever is in there, it's sending signals to her whole being. All right, creating portals. All right, and you become a vessel for foul, unclean specters. So the woman herself, she's a sweet lady, but something was ailing her. All right, just by diagnosing what's going on, something was ailing her, and she did have a sickness that was removed. All right, and also it's removed from one of the most powerful things, because our past key seals link somehow. Bobby didn't explain all because he's going to explain when he wants to. It explains somehow to our womb. All right, and our past key seals is linked to the womb. So that's one of the most powerful, because that's the vehicle from the spiritual world and the physical world. Like the women are the gateway. So she can become a vessel for so many unclean foul specters. So maybe she got pregnant by somebody back in the day. They still have a bond on a spiritual sense, and she could have entities that are still attached to her. And now when she goes with a new person, those entities can go into the child, because that's explained in the Master's Secret. I forget exactly which one. It's explained how the specters go into the mother first, and then it departs her on when she gives birth on the 9th month, and it goes into the child. All right, and that's how sometimes children can have different. But it could be a good spirit, it could be a bad spirit, because that happened to Baba, but it wasn't an unclean foul specter. Baba explained in many scrolls that when his mom was pregnant with him, it was her sorrow and pain of the rejection that opened the vessel, and for that being to go into that child, and it was Yanun. So Yanun went into the child. All right. So there was a gateway that was open, and then also the right DNA, everything was aligned, and it was the right time, the right circumstances to pull. But at the same time, you could think about other circumstances could pull in all kinds of different creatures. All right. 40. All right. The fallen specters, Nashush, deceived the inhabitants of the earth, claiming to be an unseen God, a son of God, to have faith in the beast and his host of fallen spirits who roam the earth trapped like birds in a cage. 41. These will be the days and times that has never been like this before, when Shakasu people offered their all for lust and luster. 42. Zazaz Tatu, women removed their coverings in public view. All right. So no lie, where I'm working, I'm seeing people. I think ever since COVID, people just got even crazier. I'm seeing people walk around with fishnets and a bra and panty and a dong. I've seen that so many times, and it's legal. And the skirt, you know. So we don't want to go to extremes, you know. We came out of the veil, but we don't want to go to the extreme either. All right. Because when I see certain things, it tells me that there's a mental instability. All right. All right. 43, many people will overeat. 44, many people will undereat. All these are gateways. All right. One thing I love to do, I love to eat. All right. If there was no physical implications, I would eat all the time, but I don't. Just because, you know, I'm a little vain, I like looking good and I like feeling good and I like to think of myself healthy later. But you know, that kind of shows maybe something's going on in my genetics that like to eat. But I have to live by soul, not spirit. So I just learned to my spirit saying go eat that. Whoever that number 30 is or whoever that is, they want to eat. And I say, well, we're not gonna overeat because we just ate. All right. Then you have the other extreme. Many people will undereat. All right. 45, many will speak foul, vulgar, obscene language to one another as if it is normal. All right. The way you speak to people can open certain gateways in them. Because if I say, how you doing, my brother? What's going on? It makes you feel different than if I say, what up, my nigga? It's going to make you feel different. It's going to pull a different side out of you. It's going to make you feel different about yourself or how you relate. All right. And that's normal. Like I see people in their own families, they call the mom and sisters and everybody, they smoking together and calling each other all types of names, and it's normal and being vulgar. All right. And then what they strive to accomplish in life becomes put down more and more. And it's just normalized never to accomplish anything after a while. All right. Why? Because they have opened the gateway to these low life or low vibrating entities that's as far as they go. So you'll notice that's as far as you go. So this can be a cue. You know what? Let me interact differently or find other people to interact with. All right. And if it feels different when how you can explain something, you know, like if I say I'm gonna drink this this herbs or whatever. If I say I'm gonna drink this refreshing, it's different. If I say I'm gonna drink this nasty thing, it's gonna program my mind how I relate to this thing, you know, and how it will relate to me. That's another thing of why. So now you know why. We're not just like cultish religious people. There's a whole thing that's happening. Get to know the reasons behind, so you can respect those reasons and you can make a decision because it's decision time. Do I want to be aligned with this entity or do I want to be aligned with this entity? If this is the outcome that I want, well, this is what I need to do to get there. All right. If I'm comfortable here, then there's nothing else to do. So now it's more of you're empowered now, right? You're empowered. 46, people will become vulgarians in public and private. All right. Now, a lot of times, like people, that's one thing. Authenticity. At one time, I did hear Baba say, authenticity is right up there in the realm of Ashuk, being authentic, being real. All right. But a lot of times people think that being vulgar is being real. All right. And I could say, hey, I'm going to be an authentic person. I'm going to be a real person. It doesn't mean that there's not things that I still want to strive higher to. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of times we use our ego to shield us from growing past something that we should probably work on. So if somebody just ends up being a jerk and very selfish, they say, I got to be myself. Robert Bazamal.
Yeah, Nintendo, I still like the way you said "What up, my nigga." The sound of it was fly, yo. I don't care. That's how I feel. Why do?
Yeah, but you know, I don't really talk like that. I mean, I'm around it. I don't talk like that. However, it's like it's different because the guy might want to try to holler at me now. Yeah, what's up? What's up? Yeah, so what you got going on? Like it stimulate a different side of that man. Now, I noticed, for example, I'm gonna give you an example. Whether the person likes it or not, you could ask what part of them likes it. Because I have different sides, as do us all, you know. And I remember like when I started, I had a lot on my plate. I was going through so much. I just wanted to be to myself. And it feel like every time I go outside, all these brothers try to holler at me like, "Ooh, you looking good." And it's like, and I'm like, let me put on sweats so they don't even. And it's like I put on the sweats and I put on ugly clothes and baggy clothes and whatever. And they holler even more. And then, so what ended up happening was that slowly but surely, I'm working on whatever it is, because life, sometimes it's life, and I feel my vibration rising. I feel myself just being present differently. So what ended up happening is that I'm walking down the street, and a lot of the brothers are like, "How you doing, my sister?" It's so different, you know, and it's like so because I'm sure they have that side, what up, mom, but they're not inspired as much as like, wow. And I'm dressed even nicer. Sometimes I'm dressed nicer and I was like, they gonna holler. And I'm like, wow, they're not really hollering the same way. They're happy. And they're like, how you doing, sister? So that's
I
so
wanted to
important.
say something. Sorry.
Yes, Jamal.
I don't know where I got this saying from, but you know how they be like, you are what you attract,
Yeah.
or you are who you attract. Yeah, I find that to be true in many cases,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a very positive person. I've been that way for a very long time, basically my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe made some bad decisions, but nonetheless, I've been positive for the most part. And I don't really get attention from negative people that often. So that's just something I wanted to say.
Yeah. And mom's that's funny. My mom just texted me. 1 second. Um I was saying Baba. And Baba was saying you had to rise, what is it called? Move yourself off the radar. All right. And a lot of things that we're doing is we're moving ourselves off the radar. And it's like when we start eating healthier, when we start doing certain things, you'll start to realize you vibrate a certain way. And if because most of us, especially Baba calls us here in the West, half souls. Uh, so most of us have many ways that we could vibrate because there's many different things going on. So a lot of times by putting your best foot forward, you could bring out that loving side of that person. I'm not saying it's your responsibility, to necessarily do that. However, we are responsible for the bigger picture in our collective picture because we are all playing a part. All right. And then you could see am I part of the solution or am I part of the problem? And you'll realize how your life starts to transform just by, you know what? I'm gonna eat like I care about myself. I'm gonna wear clothes that shows I care about myself. I'm gonna smell like I care about myself. You realize that people care about you more, because you emit a certain care. And I remember there was this one woman that I worked with. I thought she was so beautiful. I used to wait for her to come to work. I'm like, I wonder if she's coming today. And I just smiled because she was so just put together, so feminine. And I would always go up to her and tell her, like, wow, uh, and it's like she really would raise the morale. And it wasn't any lustful type of attraction. It was just like, she kind of made me feel like, man, I want to dress nice too. So, and it was like, wow, because I would actually smile and I would just be like blasé and then I see her smile. So, so another person could be having a bad day and then they see something inspirational and it gives them something else outside of lust to rise up to, you know. So, that's why we have to be careful when we say, I'm just being myself, my vulgar self. And it's like there's many different selves, and you're still forming yourself. All right. And it's not about like bettering yourself doesn't mean you're fake. That doesn't make you fake. All right. 46. People will become vulgarians in public and private. 47. People will deform their bodies and disfigure their own images. So this is the cool thing. All right. So these are implants. All right. It's called Bango head, and it's a trend. All right. I'm just gonna, I don't know, rhyme or reason. I think that looks cool. And it'd be cool if this nostril was higher than that nostril. And I'm just expressing myself. So I'm gonna rip this and have all these unnatural things. In actuality, if they knew how they were put together and why this is here and why that is there, that's why Bible said to study anatomy. So you could respect your vessel. All right, here's another woman that did that. That's where she started at. She just recently died. All right, and the Cardi B's and all these other people, and it's not to mock them or look down at them, because a lot of us did things not knowing better. All right, you drank that Coca-Cola that can clean a car. You didn't know that, and it has aborted fetuses and different things in that. All right, you didn't necessarily know that, or you know better, but you're kind of addicted to it, so you're working your way back to natural nature. All right. This sister, I mean, she's not really a sister, but this woman, if she knew what she like, if she knew what she knows then, would she have even started? Because a lot of times you're trying to fix this one, now you're trying to fix that, and then it creates a whole, you see something wrong with this, and it's like when you start to appreciate the way nature put you together, all right? All right, so you become an unnatural being. Now she can get a walk-in so easily because she's vibrating in an unnatural state. They can get walk-ins so easily. All right. When we wear artificial clothes and we're sweating and we have these bacteria growing, those bacteria, they send signals to our body. We can get walk-ins. All right. If you don't bathe for a few days, you start getting body odors. You're going to feel differently. All right. And those scents and different things like that, because those bacteria send signals to your body, and that becomes gateways. So think about that. People will pass venereal diseases one to another with no shame. All right, it's normalized. I heard young people talking how they've normalized different diseases, including HIV. Now, it's good that it was destigmatized, all right, because people had so much shame that different things that they were dealing with. But it's another thing to normalize it, all right, to where they're like, oh, it doesn't matter if you get it, because if you get it, you can live a long time with medication. That's going to destroy your livers and all that, all your other organs, all right. But they have normalized it, because I heard these young people, I heard these young people talking about it, and even in Brazil, I watched a documentary because in Brazil, people with HIV at one time, I don't know if it's still true, that if they had disease, if they had HIV particularly, they get all the like government assistance, all right, at that time. So what ended up happening was that very poor people who needed assistance, they would actually volunteer to go get HIV. All right. And they normalize these things. But now, as we learn in other scrolls, through genetic kiss and everything else like that, how these different diseases has the effect on your dirty influences, all right, in your very nature. All right. But a lot of us don't know. All right. And sometimes even after you clear the STD, it still has an effect, right? As Baabaa explains. But we didn't know. We didn't know the spiritual side, because a lot of us, we have all these interesting philosophies. It's not what you eat. It's who you are on the inside. It don't matter, because you're going to leave this body anyway. When you realize that what's going on with your body does have an effect on you on the other side. Yeah. So I'm thinking these things that it might hold your body here. It might hold your spirit. It might become an anchor to you when it's time for you to graduate past this physical school. All right. It might keep you on this physical realm. So 49. People will have janastal, sexual intercourse with strangers, transmitting death. All right. So it's like They normalized that. You know, Sex in the City. Sex in the City really did a big number on the women. It wasn't. I didn't really enjoy that show, but a lot of women did, and I really noticed that our attitudes, especially people who watch that show regularly, their attitudes towards sex became very casual. And it's like, well, you know what? I'm a modern woman, or I'm a modern man, or, you know, just grow up, you know? And that's all normalized. They don't realize all the transmissions, and it's not always, you can transmit so much. All right, family line, cancer tendencies. A lot of cancers that, like throat cancers and different cancers that people have, is actually caused by HPV. HPV is a sexually transmitted disease, for example. So a lot of mysterious cancers can be caused by things that might have been contracted. Even certain bacteria can lead to certain cancers. All right. We don't know that. All right. 50. Some people know and they don't care. But a lot of us, if we know, that's why we got to get this information out. 50. Zazazu men will beat Zazaz Tatu women as if they are Ayash Mill, physically equal. All right. So you see men beating women like the women is, I see that, you know, I've seen that. Men who are, they'll reason out and talk with other men and then put their hands on a woman. All right. There's no rhyme or reason with that. 51. Karadu children will kill and murder their own Yasaru families. All right. I'm seeing that more and more. I used to only see it. It was a joke. Like white people will kill you for insurance money. That was a joke that used to be I used to hear floating around when I was young. Now, people of all races, it's because they're getting walk-ins, the things that they're participating in, what they're engaging in, is opening up them to have those same spirit forces. All right, nothing's sacred. All right, because before it's like I'll fight my brother or sister all day, but the moment somebody else fight them, it's different. You got, like, I can't stand my brother or sister, but you don't mess with my brother or sister. We don't got that anymore. All right, like not like before because of these entities. And that's why we got to get that culture back, all right, to give us something to strive to. Yes,
Greetings.
Robert.
Hello. I have one question. I just had a newborn recently, and I wanted to know. I know there's herbs and stuff like to protect them because they more like connected to the divine. But I noticed like he's more so up at night times and stuff, and I just wanted to know like any herbs and stuff I could like put around the room and stuff to help him like feel more safe and grounded. Like I feel like spirits is like I feel like they just like interfering, if you get what I'm saying.
Sure. I find that electronics, removing them, so wherever he's sleeping, if you could move electronics, that's helpful. But there's so many ways, and yeah, we could talk about it more. Let me see what else. I guess we could talk about it a little bit. Moving electronics. How old is he?
He's literally like 2 weeks, like 2.5 weeks.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Congratulations. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's normal, him being up. But however, if you feel like, you know, you want to protect him extra, Baba, I remember there was an update a long time ago. Baba talked about the dust in the air and how it actually influences us. So the importance of cleanliness, you know, and how entities that actually can affect people through the dust, which makes sense because I think they say like 40 or some crazy amount of dust is actually dead skin. Let's see what else. Just keeping your temple like a divine space. If there's no animals in there, you know, because Baba said that the Nataru don't go where the animals are. Having an altar, you know, as Baba helped us to put up. Baba had wrote me and he said for me to put more pictures up of him. All right. That's when I started to do that because I was just like, I didn't really get certain things. So I put the pictures up. It really sets a certain tone. All right. And also what you're partaking in yourself, because how you handling yourself is a protection for those around you. So that's wonderful that you are being proactive like that, Zamal. And congratulations to you. Yes, Sakim, back.
Yes, Nuntat, what about the telling them about the mirror and the sea salt that Baba told us to put in the windows and around the house?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was more
No,
so what
so,
I was trying to get to. Like, is there any herbs to
mhm.
uh,
like put around the room and stuff?
yeah,
You
that sea salt,
go ahead,
bro.
Tim. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
sea salt. Sea salt and put mirrors in your window because the spirits they don't like the reflection.
Mhm.
So try that out too, Zamal. You know, you should be good. Don't have no, Nuntat know this too. Don't have no uh adults around him. Letting people kiss him and hold
Mhm.
him and all that. Yeah, he's still fresh. What do?
Yeah. Do you remember how long he said? I can't remember. So they be
I think it
holding
was
him.
back in 2012 when he was
I
giving
mean,
the
like how old?
audition.
How old? I meant how old the baby should be.
Oh no,
Oh, you don't remember? Okay.
no, no.
Yeah, and that's another thing about we don't kiss the babies because we have germs. I forgot which scroll. It's in the scroll. A lot of scrolls will help us just by living and applying the culture is helpful, and then also just by learning herbs and plants. So, for example, a good example, like peppermint oil, is great to keep away like things like cockroaches and rats. You know, but then also the effect that peppermint has on the consciousness. So you can see how that type of substance repels certain entities while it attracts certain entities, you know? Something as simple as that. A little bit of saging. And sage was great when they talk about smudging. Those herbs actually, because I went and I spent time, a little bit of time with some some native tribe in Costa Rica, and they built their hut a certain way with a certain type of tree that's actually repellent, and then they actually use something to smudge, but they talk about the spirit, but really spirits can be like bacterias and different things like that because they understand these different uh things that we intake, because when you're breathing you're intaking. So smudging the air, when you take care of your physical, that's actually a spiritual. So keeping your place impeccably clean is in itself is a form of psychic self-defense. So you use the sage to clean the air every now and then, not too much, because you don't want to, too much smoke is bad for the lungs too, but just to clean and air out. And dust, I remember Baba talking about dusting and all that other stuff. That's a form of psychic self-defense, and
Don't
it's in it.
forget the frankincense to
Yeah,
bring back
Francis.
the good energies in.
Okay. And this is what this is. I'm drinking frankincense liquid. I've been drinking it.
Whoa.
I love it. But it's a certain grade. It's a certain grade. And I could hook you up with the brother Neneche Noob. He's the one who helps me with stuff like that.
No
'Cause
way.
he knows a lot about ingesting, what you could ingest and how. But yeah, that's great too. All right. So what are other things? All right. Masak music will no longer make any sense. There will be senseless sounds on the airwaves. Uh, I could just think about what's the name, Sexy Red, right? And it's like, I see her as being exploited. She even said that she feels like they just went to the hood and just made her famous because, she doesn't really talk about anything. And it makes no sense. But I know when I used to hear the music of my elders and they would play it, it would, and that's why the elders have to play their natural music again for the children. But it would put you in a certain state, and then they start cleaning the house and cooking food, and they put on this music, and it made you calm or it made you thinking, open a certain intellect. And because of the way music used to be, I used to like to sit and listen to what the music is saying. But now it just makes you very egotistical. All right. And women competing with women, men competing with men. Look at what I got, and all that other stuff. All right. That's what senseless music does. All right. Or it makes you want to go out and kill somebody. Because you could put on music and makes you angry too. All right. 53, children will attend schools, yet not wish to learn the Kadabat lies. All right. So children, they're harder to control than ever before. Why is that? Because these are different type of beings that's coming here now. They don't want to sit and just listen to lies. That's why we have to have the actual facts. You're not just going to shame this generation into doing what you want. You have to educate them. All right. I remember Bob was saying that the younger generation is actually smarter. They're getting smarter and smarter. But the problem is that they're on drugs. So he called it, I forgot, angel dust. I remember he was explaining that. Angel dust. Well, drugs in general, but he used angel dust. He said, why do they call it angel dust? Because it turns angels into dust. All right. So to kill your potential before you find out who you even are. All right. So the children don't want to learn no nonsense. All
Wait, I
right.
wanted to say something real quick because
Yes.
I used to work in a mastery school, a children's mastery school, children's side of mastery school of a master's school I graduated from, and basically they had all these different types of systems for the kid that I was looking after to try to get him to do work. And I'm like, why does he have all these problems? And then she started explaining to me all the things that was going on and all the things they had him in, the medication they put him on. I'm like, dang, at this young, they doing this to too many children, too young.
Right. Right. And it's like you could just easily make boundaries and it's like I'm moving forward because I'm typically around children, but moving forward I learned my lesson that like children, even when they deal with me, that I'm not allowing them to just be like Rahubat noon or high noon. All right. When I was a child, well, in the Caribbean, for example, you don't just say that's very disrespectful. If you just talk to elder that way. So you have to say either auntie or uncle or Mr. or Mrs. or something like that. Because it's like just having structure in the why, and that creates healthy boundaries because all healthy relationships have boundaries, and boundaries are pretty much helpful because it lets you know what's expected of you and why. All right. And right now, children are being left with nonsense music, no boundaries. They don't know why. All right. So if they don't have nothing to look forward to, nothing to live for, they escape and then they go to these other realms where they can get there naturally and a lot quicker because they can have the facts and everything because they're ready for it. They were born for, like, they were born for this information. So, uh, so if we're not giving it to them, they're gonna have disruptions and different things like that, or be considered difficult, and because they don't want to attend the nonsense schools. All right, don't teach me no nonsense, and don't threaten me or don't like they're not afraid to go to hell. They don't have the same religious fears. So if you don't give them facts, they're gonna probably be very devilish. All right. Now if I know why, like, oh, I didn't know that. I thought that I could just pop a few pills because I'm like 18, and then I'll clean up my act, and then when I'm 30, I'm going, and it's like, then I'll get married, settle down, or whatever it is. Sometimes they have that type of thinking because they don't know the long-term repercussions or the spiritual, they think they're just having fun, and the way that the older people, they sit on a high horse like they've never done these things before instead of educating, all right, and sharing from experience, because that's why these experiences happen, so that we can help each other. And like, for example, in the Lotus of Life, Baba explains that the first 12 sacred feminine will not be perfect. They will be imperfect. But their job is to educate the ones coming behind them to learn from all the mistakes that they went through so they don't have to go through it. But if the elders are sitting up there judging you, they're not and condemning you for things that they did or in a different way or to a different extreme, because they might have done it maybe not to the extent that you're doing. But a lot of us didn't know these facts, so we violated in some shape or form, because Baba said that all of the women are unnatural, and we have to get back to in some way from a certain thing that they consumed, different things that they did we didn't know. All right. So that's what is so powerful about these new children coming. All right. And the gateways that we're opening. And you got the two extremes here. Some of them are pure devils, and some of them are like Bible says the fire children and the golden children have been born side by side. And a lot of the golden children are doing what the fire children are doing because they're being influenced. And that's where the people before them are supposed to be there to protect them. All right, with the facts, because you're not going to scare golden child to do the right thing, but you can educate them, and then that genetic will go off. All right, and that's why Bible said he needs to touch certain people in time, but he's been blocked, so he can't touch them. People think that means physical touch, when Bible says it's the actual information that's opening the genetics. So Bible's touching people, all right, and we're going to get this information out. All right. I don't know where your genetics is going to take you. It might take you even further than mine, but I'm not going to hold you back. I'm not taking responsibility, all right, for misguiding anybody. 54. The jails, prisons, and penitentiaries will be filled with people. All right. People will be in jail for all kind of dumb reasons, both legit and illegit, not legit, reasons, because you could see all the gateways that's being open. So people are doing a lot more dumb things because they don't have the love and the music and different things to keep them grounded in their soul. So they're more likely to do crazy things. But then at the same time, you still have an injustice system. All right. So it's going to be filled with people. And Colorado, they use slave labor to put out those firefighters. A lot of them are actually prisoners. All right, that when they get released, they will not be eligible to be a firefighter. And if they don't fight, if they refuse to go fight the fire, they can be penalized. They can be penalized either through their privileges or their considerations for their paroles. All right, so it's modern day slavery, but regardless of why the people are in the prison, more people are there, right? 55, viruses will come and be sent to Earth from outer space. 56, higher life will be uncovered on Mars and other Hawakat's planets. All right, Bible was talking about this even before we were ready. We asked him about Jesus and Muhammad. He still managed to kind of put those, what is it called? He put those gems in there for us, right? So Bible put the gems in there for us. Baba was saying that he was crazy. I even heard a Jay-Z interview. He was talking about Jazzo. He was talking about Baba. And he was like, Jazzo sitting up there waiting for a spaceship to come get him. And they was laughing. All right. And that's the only thing I ever heard him say. Now you got Beyonce on tour wearing something that's an alien, right? But anyway, Baba said it's a matter of time that it'll be confirmed. He don't care that he look crazy now, because they're going to become a time when people are going to run to him asking him. All right. 57, Muzyad Mutatalu, extraterrestrials will make themselves seen and known. We're in those times now. All right. There was they're having news reports, and Baba said we're about to have what is it called? When you show yourself, invasion. We're about to have an invasion, but it's already been going on. They're going to show themselves. And he said a lot of it is going to be fake and real. It's going to be side by side. Some of it is going to be hologram. Some of it's going to be real. And that's why it's so important right now for us to learn how to distinguish a fact from fiction, because a lot of times a fiction can appear as a fact. Do you know how to investigate and get to it? All right. So that somebody can't just tell you something and you just run blind faith. Because if you're going to ship blind faith because they project to you what you want and appeal to your ego, all right, now you just became food, all right, on multiple dimensions. So some of them are for you, some of them are not for you, and some of them are not even real. 58, the wealth and powers of Pa Kawak, the planets, will move from Yarapu, Europeans, to Abu, Asians, Javadu, Indians, and Afaf Re'ekahu, Africans. Oh my gosh, I've been following what's going on in Africa. It's an amazing time. Unfortunately, those of us with half souls here in the West, you know, a lot of us, we gotta get ourselves on board. But the dollar is about to become very worthless. For example, in Ghana, they were talking about bringing their dependency down, because like right now, let's say one American dollar is about 14 Ghanaian dollars. So the president was talking about them possibly bringing it down to below $10. All right. And possibly not even dealing with it, but that's the promise. We will bring that there. So now your dollar doesn't mean as much, and they're talking about distancing themselves on their relationship with the West. And many African countries have kicked these colonial forces out, such as Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, a few of these other countries. All right. So it's like, wow, it's happening. It would be nice if we were, you know, Baba said, though, we'll make it through the skin of our teeth. It won't be a lot of us, but as long as two of us made it, we all made it. That's what Baba said. All right. So I'm happy to help us all without saying I'm the one, although I see myself there, you know, but you're not limited to me. So read the scrolls. Read the scrolls. All right. So 59. The Kakasu, the Caucasoid race, will be on a decline as their species become extinct from the year 2000 AD onward. All right. Talking about world politics, you know, if we had it together, I mean, life happens how it has to. I mean, we have a lot of Adamite genes, I guess we have to burn out. All right. But it's like from the year 2000 until, like, we had a big head start. We had such a big head start. And it was like everything was really in our favor, all of the Nagaru and the diaspora. So we could, but it's like, you know, we had to burn certain things out. So we're just going to get on that trend, you know, with our fellow Africans. But we did have a head start. All right, 60. The seas will erupt, because that image is falling. The Caucasian image is falling. 60. The seas will erupt and the creatures offer up their own lives to the shores. All right, Bobby explained that why all these animals are coming up. Like, you see all these animals, they jumping out of the sea. All right. And Bobby's explaining that a lot of them, because there's different things going on in the oceans, and they're trying to get out the water because there's poisons and stuff. That's why, like, seafood is fine, but Bobby said we have to even limit the seafood that we consume now, because it's a lot of, like, contaminants. All right. Now you see a Zika. Look at the deformity. All right, from a virus. So if a virus transmitted from a mosquito can do this to a child, viruses definitely transmitted through sex can do that. Can do different various things, and it doesn't always show up physically. It could show up spiritually. But we're learning now. All right. 61. And a great ball of Nawar fire, a great ball of Nawar lights will fall and scatter on earth. Like, Baba had another book back in the day called The Great Balls of Fire. And he explained in that scroll that there's big, giant, what do you call those balls? Those rocks. I don't know what they call them, rocks. I forgot what they call them. And they didn't know what not meteorites, but that's a good one. It's like certain things that you see them in South America, and they're these big balls, these stones. And Baba said that those are actually going to be sucked up, charged, and thrown back down. All right. Now, are there other kinds of balls of fire? Probably, but that's one of them. All right. 62. The weapons of Muzyad Matatulu, extraterrestrials, and their evil offspring testing will kill many sea creatures. All right. 63. When Pa Reye, the sun, Pa Aha, the moon, line up, and Pa Patat, the sky, appears to split open, and the unseen wars of extraterrestrials are heard by Earth and Earthlings. All right. There's going to be an update coming out talking about drones looking for Baabaa. All right. Look out for that one. And so the thing is, there's different things going on. Some of these extraterrestrials are for you, some of them are not. All right. And it's about to be on and popping. But they can't stop. They can't stop a papa. Like that's what he had said. All right. So, yeah. 64. Great bangs, booms, hums, and more will be heard, yet not understood why and where and from. All right. So, where things are going to be taken, what those of us who should be studying, you're going to be knowing why. Where you'll be able to figure out where you should be, what you should be doing. That's why Baabaa say we should be tuning ourselves up. It's time. These other fake people coming like they're your guru. All right. They distracting you from getting yourself together. All right. And then also coming together. All right. Because I like to consider myself as a smart woman. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of things that's not my expertise. And just because you haven't read a scroll yet, there might be something that I need you for that could save my life. And I'm going to remember when I tried to keep you down or I don't have access to you. Like, man, I could have really used that help. This person knows all about that. That's where we start to cooperate. All right. And start looking out for each other. There's no competition. You know, I don't want your seat because I got my own seat to sit in. All right. And I'm sure you do too. So it would be foolish of me to sabotage with your seat because I might need to turn to you. And I would be so happy. All right. So that you've worked on yourself. I would be so happy because I'm going to benefit from the work you did. All right. And you're going to benefit from what I do. All right. If we cooperate. But that's where self-love comes in. All right. 65. And those who claim the same Ka'a Mukwan spirit being as God by many tongues will fight and kill one another. All right. So you see Christian against Christian, Muslim against Muslim, even so-called Sabian against Sabian. We don't have time for you see what Baabaa said, you know how he said to neutralize any arguments? He said, pull out the patarat, pull out the facts. All right. I might know something that you don't. It's time for me to explain away. There's no room for argument unless we're doing things our own way. All right. And me just telling you, believe me because I said so, I can't relate to that. And I don't expect you to relate to that after all the games played with information in your soul for so long. That's not a wise thing to do. You better interrogate before you integrate. All right. Like Baabaa said, actual fact. All right. So now you have the Zika virus. All right. You're not going to be able to scapegoat your bad decisions because this brother told me to do that. That's why I did the wrong thing. You're not scapegoating. Where's your reasonability? All right. There goes the starfish and all these other animals dying, being killed. So supposedly they didn't necessarily catch this animal, but the animal just washed up. Those oarfishes shouldn't even be so close to the, it's an oarfish. It shouldn't be so close to the shore anyway. So wars in the seas, wars in the skies. 66. It is during these times that I, Baabaa Yaanun, Amun, Nabab, Reye Akak Pata, will stand up with Wunawa, the power to Shafe, heal, and to release our own trapped Bahu souls of our own Nasabu relatives trapped. All right, we're gonna free our souls and we're gonna heal our families. And each one of us who's doing the job, we become the Muklasina, or the cleansed ones, the purified ones. That's the Muklasina. Those of us who've taken time to clean ourselves up. All right. Because if I knew everything that was in these doctrines, I would not read a book, because I already know. All right. So I'm not going to pretend that Baabaa found me in my highest state. I have a life before Wu Sabat. And that's why Baabaa comes with healing in his wings. All right. So don't let anybody hold your growth against you or try to weaponize it. Let them keep their hang-ups. You keep growing, perfecting yourself. And that's what Baabaa's job is here to bring healing and to hope to free our trapped relatives. Because our trapped relatives, they torment us because they're on the other side. Baabaa explained that they're slaves to the 6 ether forces, and then we become slaves to their suggestions. And then we just live this decrepit life. So as we start to apply the and live by soul, we start to free them on the other side. All right. And, 67. And Baabaa, that's what the master secrets. Baabaa has given us the master secrets is to give you a head start before you get to that side, so you can start the spiritual work now. Because a lot of what he's teaching you now, you're going to find out on that side anyway. So he said that he gave you a head start so you can start the work, because a lot of us don't realize the physical implications that has on our spiritual side. And Baba's teaching us, and now we have the facts. So why don't women go from man to man to man? Why does a woman do something? Why does a man? Why is a man put together this way? Why is this happening? Why do we consume this? Why do we not consume this? These are things we naturally knew before, but we forgot. All right. So these are remembering tools. Now you can make more reasonable decisions, and then it's going to affect your life to come. All right. And those life behind you. And the evidence will be right in the here and now. 67. The many lies and opinions of deceitful preachers who stand up and preach and teach what they themselves do not understand, or have right affirmation into physical world of information, the blind leading the blind. All right. So when I finish reading these scrolls, some of these things I might have already known, because it's like certain things, it's just common knowledge. Some things you might know if you're in the field already. Some things I did not know, right? And then when you start to look into it or apply it, or you go investigate, you do it or something like that, now it becomes a fact, all right? You've taken time to understand it, you applied it, you can overstand it, and you can see the different ways it's played out. Now you can go out and teach it, all right? And you teach it from experience. So I'm going to talk to a sister from experience. These are certain things that I've been through. This is why we do certain things, etc., etc. Hey, brother, I was consuming this thing. This is why we do this. This is, etc., etc. I'm not going to stand outside and talk about something I don't know, even if I'm sharing it. So it's still my responsibility, not just to memorize the doctrine. It's my responsibility to get to know it myself. So I'm not sitting there and turning our sacred doctrine into another opinion, all right, that people are just going to dismiss. Because I remember the first time some random person, I remember Bob, it was years ago. And it was like before Genetic Kiss came out and the actual facts came out. And I went to the store. The brother don't even know me, but I'm looking at the books. He don't know me that well. He just know me as Noontet and in passing. I'm looking at a book. Then he says, "Hey Noontet, gotta tell you something." I was like, okay. Yeah? Yeah, so Baba just said, if you have more than 4 mates, you're genetically dead. And then I was like, that was unsolicited and out of there was no context. So I asked him, well, why? Like, what does that even mean? That's what I asked him. He said, I don't know. Baba said it. And then I was just like,
Trying
okay.
to use it against you, right?
Not even use it against me, because he doesn't even know my background. But I'm just saying it's like a random thing. And it's like a person asks you why. You can't tell them why. Did you take time to ask Baba why too? Baba said we don't ask the right questions. We still don't know about Jesus Muhammad at the time. Now we ask better questions, because he could see based on the questions we ask where we are. But that's a natural question that somebody would ask. Well, you got to do it because just because Baba said, or just because I said, or whoever. But Baba doesn't teach like that. Baba explains certain things to you, and he's waiting for your questions. And he said he loves people who question him. All right. And not to be like, well, I don't want to do it, so let me find something wrong with it. No, you want to know how and why, and does it reason out? And when things reason out to you, become more reasonable. And now it makes sense. And if that's the outcome you want, you're going to actually hold on to that culture even stronger than if you just said, all right, I'm just going to do that. Because why 4, not 3? Why not 5? Why not 2? You know what I mean? But Baba explained all that, you know, in scrolls that later came. So the question should have been asked, and maybe it was asked, you know, or, hey, you know, why do you wear that braid? Because it's our culture. I got that answer before. That did not inspire me to want to wear a braid, and I did not wear the braid. No, I did not. Now, when did I wear the braid? Why do you wear that braid? When I read the scroll and it was explained, and how it connects to how the woman is the one who passes the mitochondrial DNA. And this represents our genetic link, because the braid represents our helix. All right. So I was like, wow, that makes sense, you know, because we're cut from a different cloth, you know, the generations that's coming and where we're going towards, and the type of people you'll be interacting with. They're going to want to know, you're going to be able to answer them. So let's read number 67 together and why we're different. Because it's even stated in 9 reasons to be Nuwapu and not them. And the first reason it says, which is right here, number 1, the inevitability of facts. Everyone seeks facts, truth, and confirmation. No one can really endure on blind faith or hope. All right. So if you want to stand the test of time and really endure, because let's say you enjoy doing, like, you enjoy taking substances, and you don't really know all the science behind the substances, but you feel fine the next day, it's going to be harder for you to quit that substance until you go and get the science. When you get the science behind you, when it's time for you to get that, and you get, what is that called? You get that craving again, and you realize what it actually is doing to you every single time. Knowing the facts about it will help to keep you solidified in your decision a lot longer than thinking somebody's going to judge you. All right. So let's continue. So 67, the many lies and opinions of deceitful preachers who stand up and preach and teach what they themselves do not understand, or have the right affirmation into this physical world of information, the blind leading the blind. No one's required to be a blind follower. All right. Now I will follow, like Baba has proven that he is who he is. So sometimes a leader needs to know when to follow. And if this person, if somebody knows better about something, that's the time that you fall in line. And that's called cooperation. But I'm not just blindly leading. I mean, blindly following. All right. Because I'm like, okay, this person know what they're talking about. Like, I'm not going to hire somebody who's never built a house to build a house or something like that. They don't even know about foundations. Now, they know more than I do. So I'm like, okay, you know what? You know more about that. So you take the lead on that. That's wise. All right. 68. And at the same time, don't just sit there blindly. As you're following that person who knows more, you take time to learn it too. So now, if you ever have to show somebody, you also know the facts, because you learn, and his Bible says, read, and learn every day, and then teach, because that person may not necessarily be there next time, but you know all about founding. Like, you didn't know, that person took the lead, and you took time, and you were teachable, and then now you know also about foundations, and then they could just be like, you know, you didn't stay blind. All right. Because what is this called? What's in the picture? Eyes, scrolls, opening up. All right. Open your eyes. 68. With tricks passed on to them by Master Munshashu, deceivers who call it religious truth, only lies of Mukzabur. All right. Lies of religious, they call it religious truth. All right. Only lies of Mukzabur. All right. Ask me any question that's relevant. If it's none of your business, I'm probably not going to answer. But if it's relevant to a topic or certain things, you have the right to know something that's affecting your soul before you accept it. All right. 69. I'm not going to say, oh, it's disrespectful because you're questioning me about something you never heard before. Hopefully I have the answers. All right. If not, I got some work to do, and that's okay. 69. It is during the most needed time that I will bring forth pa hakaktal hakakats, the actual facts, and patrak the way for aye karadu pa nuapu, my children the Nuapians. All right. So we're in these hard times. Why? Because Baba has brought it forth through. All right. He just needs his children to catch up. You don't got time for these distractions, he said. He said, you got so much to catch up on. How do you guys have time for drama? I remember him saying that. And I was laughing. I was like, that's true. 70. Given what I incarnated to give, the right knowledge, the right wisdom, the right understanding, leading to the correct overstanding of sound right reasoning. All right, Baba explained what sound right reasoning is because he used that term for so long. Now you see that Baba talking about we're sound beings. And we're talking about how we vibrate. And our vibrations were off. All right. So we have things to correct our tones. Sound right reasoning. That means the sound was off. The facts were off. The reasonability wasn't there. It's not reasonable to tell somebody something and not expect them to want to know how it works. All right. Because if you're a reasonable being, you respect the reasonability of your fellow brother and sister. All right. And that's what Baba has done for us, for me. That's what Baba has done for me. All right. 71. The whole world will know who I am. And my coming down from Marzak, risk as Murzaku, Murzakun, a riskian, and with knowledge like none they've heard for 24,000 years. All right. Good thing that I came across the information when I did, because now when I see people on the internet passing themselves off as gurus, 9 times out of 10, they're a student of Baba. All right. Whether they acknowledge Baba or not. A lot of them are sitting there like they're wise and they're hurting a lot of souls. All right. Because I didn't know some of these things that I know now. I know it now, but I didn't know certain things. And I never heard people say things, and so I heard Baba say it. And Baba said that actually the case of him being incarcerated, this whole case was actually conspired for the world to draw attention to who he is. It's such a big injustice that when it finally blows up to the public, it's going to be like, hold up. Who is this man? And you're going to be like, this is Baabaa Yaanun, introducing Baabaa Yaanun to the world. All right. So in one of the scrolls, Baba was talking about the people who set him up, which was people from our own tribe, people from our own family, who conspired and worked with the adverse forces and handed him over. We could read those scrolls too together. And Baba said, you think that you conspired, but it was really me that conspired. All right. That's what Baba wrote. And that scroll is available for everybody to read. All right. And they should read. And it's about getting yourself straight in time. Because I don't really got time to think about what that other person did and what the other person did. I got to think, can I vibrate, all right, where Baba's going? All right. So Baba gave us an extension for those of us to get ourselves together. That real extension is really about us burning certain desires out. Because his flame is going to be so hot, it's going to be hard to be around him if you haven't burned certain things out. All right. So that's the time to be working on yourself. And you have a little bit of things to work through. And some changes, you see it instantly. Some things it takes time to work on. And that's okay as long as you're working on it, because he said that we're in the high noon. and you're in the sand, the burning sand, you don't have no time to look back on that person who fell behind you, because by the time you go back and get them, y'all both got burned. If they catch up, they catch up. If the brother fall next to you, y'all help each other up or whatever, but you got to keep going. So he's initially saying none of y'all are safe, right? Because a lot of what we say about the Adamites can apply to us, of things that needs to be removed from the planet. And are we going to make the shift? All right. Don't assume just because you got melanin, if these spirit forces are you still a slave to it, because it was the people that look like me and you and Baabaa that, you know, was against Baabaa, because they were open conduits, all right, for these other forces that came in. All right. So Baaba's telling us how to close those doors. 72, I broke open. All right. So the whole world would know who I am. Am I coming down from Marzak or Risk as Murazaktum, Murazak Un, a Riskian, and with knowledge like none they've heard of for 24,000 years. 72, I broke open what Daniel shut up and sealed until this time of the end. All right, we're talking about those religious seals that put a seal on our eyes and led us into blind faith. That's the seal of that Daniel. All right, and what was Daniel bringing? His seal is a star. His seal is a star. And what does Bible warn you about? He warns you against the deception of the blinding lights of deception. All right. So Baabaa is taking us behind the 9 ball. The 9 ball is considered a sun. Baabaa explained the 9 ball is. That's a sun. So he takes you behind the luster of the sun. So you go back into the realm of darkness, which is the realm of creation, and you see how things are put together, because things can appear one way, but what is behind it? So you know how it's put together. And the only one who knows about it is the creator of it. And that's why our creativity, all right, not our beliefs. And when you go to your creativity, you're going into the realm of the masters. That's why it's called the Master Secrets. 73. With words of hakakat, facts, sadak, truth, and confirmations. All right. So he's opening what Daniel shut up. How is he doing it? Through hakakat, facts, through sadak, truth, and confirmations. All right. I'm gonna tell you, I read the breath book a long time ago, like over a decade ago. I read the breath book. And when I read the breath book, it didn't really mean that much to me. So I went on to the other book. I was like, okay, I got the information from it. It was when I applied the breath book, that's where the confirmation happened. So that's where the power came. All right. So the confirmations, that's why Baabaa always says, don't believe me, check it out. Because when you confirm it, that's when the spark really goes off. All right. A loud cry to my own lost tribe to return what was never meant for them and wake from the spell of sleep of Lawi Atan and his religions. 74. I called out to all to see and hear. Sakatu, Sakata, fallen, fallen. The new city of Babel is Sakut, falling. 75. Because of its jawedness, wickedness, and dawawat, evils, it has become a place of many haunting of evil, wicked specters. All right. Now these behaviors and things is very addictive. All right. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna get it together as soon as I finish with this strip club. I'm gonna get it together as soon as I finish this last blunt. And it's like a lot of us, we became so intertwined, all right, that it became our very way of life too. And Baaba's trying to help us in time to unwrap ourselves, as Baabaa says, untangle ourselves, all right. And it's been a process. That's why Baabaa calls it the burning out your desires. But we don't have much time left. So will you have burned enough, or will you burn up with that sun, or would you have burned off? So will you have burned off those desires, or did you burn off with them? All right. So we're at that decision time. And it depends on how far your genetics lets you go. But that's why it's important that we are so mindful of what we're still introducing into our genetics as we go forward. 76. Those who lost the wings of their Ba soul and Kahu spirits, unable to fly up, they are trapped as unclean, smelly, and detestable Mudwawu, evil ones, devils, and Tayaf, ghost. All right. So it's like Baba had explained that in Mafkuzet Elixir Life, there's a scroll that they're trying to get people from reading. I don't know why. All right. Mafkuzet Elixir Life, that's a very important scroll to read. All right. It will help you with your chanting. It will help you to know why you put together certain things you can use to heal yourself, certain minerals that's in your body, all that. All right. But in Mafkuzet Elixir Life, Baba explains the protections at the end of his telomeres that keep certain beings away. And if you haven't burned certain things out in time, his genetics just won't be in your presence. They just won't allow him. I think it's that scroll, because I read that scroll with another scroll, but I read that. All right. So those who lost their wings of their, because you'll be quarantined. All right. You'll quarantine yourself and you may become trapped here. So it's like stop partaking in a system that's destined to fall. All right. It already did. All right. Those who lost their wings, let's see. 77. And so many races and nations and countries have tried to live in the image of the cursed seed of the fallen angelic beings, the sons of God who raped to birth Mudwamu Salal. That's the Adamite race of Wawed wickedness. I mean, Jawed wickedness. And Dawal, evil. Munmanu, humanoids, mankind. 78. The last race of the human species, the leopard albino, or the leper albino, the ghost man of the sixth ether who lost his very soul. All right. So we learned about in our scroll, which was the scroll again? It was a melanite. I forgot the whole name of it. But we learned about the power of our melanin and the very effect on our nervous system. And the nervous system being the seat of so much, including our emotions. And the emotions being very important because those divine emotions is what takes us to other realms. So certain beings who have lost their sensation or their senses, all right, or they become so desensitized, we become cut off. All right. Now, in another scroll, Baba says that well, a lot of us have lost our soul. When Baba said when you don't care anymore, you've lost your soul. But a lot of us, we have lost the connection. So Baba said that a lot of us, we're not really cut off. We're blocked. There's a block, whereas the other one's cut off. So we're blocked, and we are removing these blockages so we can reconnect to those voices that are always there and get back on the right frequency. Because we were always tuned in. We were just off the station. But there are beings who are totally cut off. All right. And that's it. Yeah. So the last race of human species, the leper albino, the ghost man of 6,000, the ghost man of 6 ether who lost his very soul, which you can read more about in Joshua chapter 5, verses 1. 79. So many others have offered up their own kadabats, cultures, their own lahajat, languages, their own morals to drink of the diseased Amam blood by mixing their own with the Mul'an Natats, cursed seed of lepers. They receive their mark. All right. So Baba always talked about the mark of the beast. Now we learned that the mark of the beast, we were talking about genetic markers. All right. Unfortunately, a lot of us carry the mark of the beast because we have been mixing with them and the genetic markers. And we learned about that during COVID, because Baabaa said that COVID was sent down to eliminate the Adamite seed. All right, the genetics. Now we've been intermixing, so a lot of us have those genetics too. All right, but we also have our protecting genetics. So that's why we need to live our culture more than any time before, living our language and breeding them out of our genetics, because we have taken in their diseases. That's why a lot of us transitioned and different things like that. And we didn't necessarily know, because we didn't even know the science of genes. All right. So now, thank your Nagaru ancestors for their genetics, and then you treat your genetics like you are grateful to have them, and you protect them. All right. And then you also is going to be, because a culture means a way of life. All right. So we're in between two worlds. It's really hard to live our culture when we're intermixed with them, but we have to get back to it. Right. We have to rise above. All right. And a lot of us are addicted to this culture. All right. 80. And in their heads is only the Haya life of the image of the beast, talking about the other culture. So you have the sick people by genetics. They are sick, right? Then they went and mixed in with everybody else, infecting all others with their diseases. And as a result, many of all others now have only their way and their image in their heads. All right. Yeah. 81. And in their Yadad hand is only to use them and help empower the image of the beast. All right. So it's talking about the image of the beast, that they will get the image on their heads and in their hands. And Bobby explained what that meant. When they got the image in their heads, it meant that they thought like them, like the Caucasian. So I could be a Nagaru sister, but I think like a Caucasian person. And then I'm going to do the bidding, all right, of the Caucasian. So that's the works of my hand, all right, to empower the image of the beast, all right, against my own people. 82. With the cursed seed in them who are called Amorites of America, New Babel, many have committed themselves. People would tell you outright, I'm not African, I'm American. Right? I like it here. I don't want to go to no Africa, because I invited I went to Africa, I invited a few people. Some people, no matter how melanated they are, some people are really not interested. Like, I don't want to be in no hut, whatever the case is. And no, I want the bright lights, I mean, I'm being a little bit extreme, but a lot of us really have no interest in being anything than what we became. 83. They were made wealthy with New Babel, talking about those of us, all right. So they were made wealthy with New Babel. They were open to lust and perversions, and in her which they could not do in their own lands, her pornography, which is created to spread like disease. Right? Remember we talked about that tribe that was in the Amazons, that someone, some Caucasian or whoever, they went to the Amazon. Those people never seen porn because they've been cut off, and they just live untouched for a long time. And they took porn to that tribe. And then those people started doing all kinds of things. They became addicts. Everybody watched porn. And they started to do, they started to live like the people in the porn. They started to do all kinds of crazy things. But overall, a lot of these other places, you can't do what you could do here. All right. So a lot of us have no interest because we are so addicted, like Baabaa, like what Bob is saying here. 84. Many world over sold their Bahu souls to America. New Babel, they fight and kill for it. They lie and steal for it, just to live by the lust and the pleasure of the filth. 85. And many grew rich from it with excessive luxuries, such as the Arab Muslims and the Latino Christians and the European Jews and the Indian Hindu. All right, that's why the Indian Hinduism, that casteism, I meant to say, and a lot of it is by color, and a lot of it is mixing in, all right, and how the mixed in versions usually are oppressing and anti the original culture, all right. That's what they're bred to do. So you can just see the different images of outsiders who have partaked in the genetics and fornications or whatever, the culture of this these doomed beings. And it's not something they probably want to give up. All right. All right. There you go, light-skinned Indian. All right. And everything that's happening world over. So they're going to fight to uphold the oppressive system, sometimes even more. That a system that they benefited from, even if it is destroying their own people. 86. So many removed their own Salafu ancestors for unseen, unknown, unproven, unconfirmed spirit forces of the Akal mind, of the cursed seed, and his own history called Za'amats, religions, opinions of Akkad faith. Listen, if we arguing too much and we read the same scrolls, we could back pocket that information, get more information, I get more information, and then now the facts should neutralize our opinions, because we all have them. All right, I have opinions about a lot of things, and the opinions is really what gets us in trouble. That's why Bible said when you're helping people, it's best to keep your opinions to yourself and give them the facts. All right, and when they ask you the facts, you don't deny them the facts. So many removed their own Salafu ancestors for unseen, unknown, unproved, unconfirmed spirit forces of the Akal mind, of the cursed seed, and his own history called Za'amats, religions, opinions of Akkad faith. All right? It's not about faith, it's about your fate. And now you see all the things that affect your fate and why. All right? So every decision that you make, you either sealing your fate or changing it. You're fulfilling your fate. Yeah, I like that word better. You're either fulfilling a fate, fulfill. I'm going to write that word down. Fulfilling the fate, or you're changing your fate. And I remember Baabaa has said that we wasn't supposed to be here. We were supposed to be looking at what's going on from our televisions in Africa, but we made certain decisions and we actually changed our fate. All right. So, yeah, based on what you do, you can alter what was supposed to be for you because you change your genetic program. 87. A Gadad deity, God, who only offers them more luxuries after physical Mawat's death of gardens, which is here of rivers, which is here of young females with pale skin, white skin and silver pearl colored eye pupils with pale white irises, to have the pleasure of Jannah sex with, and sharabat, drinks of wine, green and gold robes, all things found right here on earth. All right, so the things that they're attached to is funny because the very thing that they call heaven is the very thing that they would be trapped by here, because they are trapped by the lusters that's already being offered here. Why certain beings, they're too dense, all right, and they're not able to go to other realms, because in reality, they're just stuck here anyway, by even the description of what heaven would be. All right. So they do all these things for these luxuries here. All right. To betray their own people, humanity, give up their soul. And they're promised more of this wealth. All right. On the other side. All right. The 40 virgins. All right. You do the right thing, you're going to have 40 women waiting up there for you to have sex with, 88. A deity who threatens them if you choose any other deity besides him. 89. He will torment you in Manrar, hell, in a blazing fire, to be in forever. All right. So now, what is heaven and hell for us? All right, because Bob explains that too. All right, we're being warned about a hell, but it's really the hell that you create for yourself. Because a lot of us are living the hells that we created in some shape or form. All right, certain decisions. So now when you know how things are put together, you can possibly make different decisions and make different decisions at a trajectory of your family line. You can change that whole trajectory. All right. So a lot of times you have to burn that fire out. And a lot of times your very desires is hell itself. All right. But you go through that fire and you come out on the other side and you really understand why you shouldn't partake in that. Because you burned that desire out. All right. And that's that healing. All right. So it's a baptism of fire. But for their God, for example, he will torment you in Manrar, hell, in a blazing fire to be in forever. 90. He threatens with pain, suffering over and over. 91. This they are taught to believe is a good, merciful deity. 92. A deity who orders them to kill and to fight others. 93. A deity who orders them to take others' shaka, land, and things. All right. So just to put in perspective, what do you think the promised land was? I remember they used to sing that in church. The promised land, right? The promised land where other people already on. Go war for me, and you'll be my favorite people. All right. So go fight, kill, take over lands. All right, because these are people without real roots, because they were grafted and created. Because a people that's rooted don't have to go take land from anyone. All right. For 94, a deity who ordered them to kill and cut up into parts all kinds of living creatures as offerings to him, to sprinkle the man blood on altars to him, to sacrifice creatures, even humans to him. This being they worship as a deity. All right. So you have Abraham and Isaac. Didn't Abraham, they were saying, oh, he just tempted him. Would he give his son to me if I asked his son? So in their own story, Abraham was willing to go take his own son. He was about to go ahead and cut him. And then a lamb, a goat, I forgot, it was either a lamb or a goat, one of those two animals. They appeared. A goat, yeah, it was a goat. It was a goat. And then it appeared, so they slaughtered that goat. So he took it as a sign that, oh, you don't have to kill him, kill the goat instead. All right. And he was considered, that was such a noble act. What kind of God does that? And even though he didn't kill the son, imagine the implication that would have for that son and father relationship. If my father tried to kill me to offer me up to somebody, even if he doesn't kill me, my relationship to him will probably never be the same after that. All right. 94. A deity who ordered him. Okay, we read that. 95. A deity who claims has all sakam power in his control, yet does not choose to change evil, to help the sick or provide for the needy. All right. Now, one thing about, because people are like so confused. So how is it different than what Baabaa teaches us? Because we call him our deity, right? Living and breathing flesh and blood. Well, Baabaa explains in many scrolls that there's no deity from anywhere extraterrestrial that doesn't work with the laws of nature. All right. Anything outside the laws of nature is trickery. Baabaa never claimed to be that. Baabaa would bring the laws of nature and tell you how it works and how he embodies it and teach us to embody it. And that in itself is a miracle. All right. So now you have here who, even our sacred trio, Hu, Sia, and Hika. They have been given updated. So you have Hu, just in case you hear different updates. You have Hu, Sia, and Hika, which is Hu, Saye, and Hika. All right. So no matter how you hear it, it's the same. Those are what he's talking about. And Hu Let me see. I have my chants. Another thing, if you have the chance, read the chants too, because the chants opens up the scroll. The scroll. So, who is the creative force? Creative force, right? Sia is perception, vision. Clear thinking. She who sees clearly. Vision. And then Hika, you might see it as magic, supernatural. All right. And now, how do we explain that magic? Magic is something that there's a process. So, for example, let's use this as an example, the book. This book in itself is magic. Wow, it's here. But we're not sitting through that process where Baba actually wrote this out by hand. Then he sent it, somebody actually typed it up. All right. Then it was actually put in book form, and then we get it. You know what I'm saying? So you have the creative force. That's how you bring things forward from the spiritual world to the physical world. All right. So you have the creativity, you have the vision, because if you could see it, and then you bring it forward through your supernatural strength, because it's a whole process. A lot of times you may not want to go through with it. So you call in for that supernatural strength. Like, you know what, this is the body that I want, and I'm working out, and I just don't feel like doing it today. That's where your supernatural strength comes in. So you could keep going. You keep going through the process. And now you have just created a miracle. All right. And everybody doesn't see a process. But there's still a process to life. And that's what animation. All right. Animism respects the forces that animates our seen world. There's unseen forces. All right. And that's true with anything that's being created and made. All right. And some people, they keep you in a state of confusion, because you'll always be looking at the luster, but you never take time to find out how that luster was put together. And that's what an animist does. All right. So that's the difference between what we do and who Baba is to us versus their spooky deities who actually abuse them and keep them in a state of confusion. So 95, a deity they claim has all Sakam power in his control, yet does not choose to change evil, help the sick, or provide for the needy. 96, a deity who allows wars and killings and rapes and abuses and accidents, all he can change if in fact he is all powerful. 97, an all-knowing deity, yet he tests and will judge what he's supposed to have already known. 98. All right, so this all-knowing deity, you're going to be punished for a nature that this deity already knows you have. So why even create a test? Because they say sometimes God tests you. Why create a test when we already know the outcome? All right, now what's the difference between for us? All right, we're being tested all the time. Now, when you look at a person, because Baba explains so many things, you understand what's present in the DNA, what that person has been through and what they're exposed to. All right. And there's various natures within that person. That's where it comes up to their decisions as well. So you can only activate what's there, and certain things are being implanted. But at the end of the day, you're testing yourself. All right. And despite all the outcome, what is it called? All the odds. Despite all the odds, are you that miracle outcome? Because all these forces that was meant to take your soul away, all these forces that was meant to kill you and to stop you and ghostise you, are you going to be one of the few purified ones who was able to purify yourself through all these things that came to destroy you? Many are called, few are chosen. And you choose yourself. All right. Because at the end of the day, that's why Baba says, Ashuk is the key. But you open the door. All right. And that's through our decisions and certain things. And it's not easy. It really isn't, because certain things are so normalized, and a lot of things that's programmed in the DNA, you just really have to fight through. And you have other entities that's there to help you, have some there that's to hinder you. And it's not No one said it's easy, you know, but that's what you're working through. So we'll see the final outcome, who's standing there. All right. And yeah, but you can't fool Yanun. All right, you can't fool Yanun. That's why you say open the door to the soul of Yanun, open the door towards him. And when you look at that door, you realize that doorway is at the center of Pa'ut, because Ta looks like a door. So Pa'ut. And you notice that center sits where your heart is. So that's where you find Yanun. And either you could be in his presence or not. So at the end of the day, Yanun already knows who's there. Through what? That central door. All right. So it's like it's something we just can't fake, you know, and it's like it's trying to get back to that. Some of us will get there, some of us it's a show, but that's why Baba says sometimes people they could fool him as a man, but they can't fool Yanun. So Yanun is the soul of the people. Yanun is the soul of the people. You can't lie to yourself, so you can't lie to Yanun. All right. So that's just how things differ. And that's it. In a journey. So let's read this again. Because I want to make us very, very crystal clear how one explain away the confusion. How are we different? Because I had these same questions that it took a time for me to wrap myself around certain ideas and how it made sense. And these were the process that I went through. And these are things that I run into now. And I can explain it because I see the difference. All right. And Bobby explained it too. So 95, a deity that claims has all Sakam power in his control, yet does not choose to change evil, help the sick, or provide for the needy. 96, a deity who allows wars and killings and rapes and abuses and accidents, all he can change if in fact he is all powerful. All right, so question. Now when Baba, he said in my brother the extraterrestrial and other books about himself, when people ask him certain things and they say, you're going to stop doing that to me, like I'm a teacher, I'm a master teacher. In other ways, I'm also a man in the sense of I have the same desires as anyone else. All right. And he said, I'm not a religious man that you keep trying to make me into. All right. He said that, and in the future we'll read more books. We can only read one book at a time, but we'll get there. All right. So a deity who allows wars and killings and rapes and abuses and accidents, all he can change if in fact he is all powerful. So first you have to explain, what do you mean by powerful? How does powerful? This is when you know you're asking the right questions. Who is he? Who is who? Sia and Hika. What does it mean to manifest from the unseen? What does animism mean? All right. It doesn't mean that the laws of nature no longer apply. We deal with the very forces of nature. So you have to respect nature, and we don't usurp the laws of nature. We work through them. All right. 97. An all-knowing deity, yet he tests and will judge what he is supposed to have already known. All right. So you can fool Malachi, but you can't fool Yanun, because that's the soul of the people. And you can't lie to yourself. If he is all-knowing, he already knows the outcome of all living things, of all living beings, of all living beings. So there is no need of a judgment day, a last day, or a day of standing, so as to judge people by what he allows them to do. We know that there is a judgment because we have a whole scroll talking about judgment upon the Adamites. They have been given, even though they came by way of natural nature, they had an opportunity by working with the other races to heal themselves. They refused to do it because their genes were just too weak. They couldn't do it. All right. So their judgment came. It's like, okay, as of 2000, you guys are dispensable. Now, for those of us, as the Bridge to Salvation explains, that we're all going to be mixed in together until that day of judgment. All right. And we each go through to judge ourselves, because As a race, we made it, but not necessarily as individuals. As a race, the Caucasians didn't make it, so they've already been judged. All right. So our decisions and what we work through, because today I could be for Baabaa, tomorrow I could be against Baabaa, because all the genetics and all the influences aren't necessarily for Baabaa, and that's why Baabaa is teaching us how to close those doors. All right. So you're not a victim of adverse forces. All right. And you don't victimize yourself in the end, because at the end of the day, what you do, you did it to yourself, and that's where that judgment is. All right, so we do have a judgment. All right, but their deity said they knew everything. Our deity, and I'm talking about natural nature, and Baabaa Yaanun, he is living and breathing. He is a Mundar. He's one of nature, and that is our goal, to get back to being also one of nature. So we could go from mortals back into the Nathar. That is our goal, and that's one of the highest things, most ambitious things that you can shoot for. Baabaa explains Nathar. All right, so Baabaa is a Mundar. All right, Mundar, one of nature. All right. So there is no need of a judgment day, because this other being knows so much. All right, this all-knowing being who's unnatural. All right, and what the beautiful thing is, that's why we thank our Nadaru for the Ashuk, because the fact that you can get sick today and you can heal tomorrow, that is a testimony of Ashuk. It's a testimony of Nadaru's Ashuk for you. All right, because a lot of times you partake in something maybe you shouldn't have consumed, or you're around the wrong things, your genetics get affected, or something malfunctions. Nature allows you to put yourself back. All right, and that is a beautiful thing. All right, that is Ashuk. That's divine love. But some people, when they sick, they just keep doing the thing that gets them sick. All right, so we accept this guidance. This is a deity they seek to make you worship as forgiving and merciful. All right, so he judges people that he made my nature, this being. And then when I embody this nature that he gave me, when he could just go in and change my heart, but he doesn't change my heart. I just want to keep doing it because that's the way he made me. Then he's going to punish me because he could have just went and changed my heart. Or he could have just made me with a nice nature to begin with. In reality, now we know that's not how it works. Baabaa gives you the tools. You decide to use the tools. Because I read the breath book. The breath book didn't make me a good person. Or it didn't heal me. It was applying the breath book that had a lot of healing to me. So I could read it, and then I could say, okay, you know what? Oh, I didn't know that. Let me apply this and do something. You've actually shifted, and that's what nature allows. It allows you to go through a process. And that's what animism is. It's a process. All right. And that's what ontology is. It's the science behind sciences, where you know how things are put together. Now you're no longer just being like, oh, I'm just going to pray to God that I can have a healthy child. No, now you know what it does to take to make a healthy child, and the state you should be in, what you should be doing, and it's not a random thing. Like when people didn't know how babies were born, they would have sex, and they're like, I'm pregnant. I don't know how I had 20 children back to back. I don't know. If God wants me to do it, that's the way that they would see life. And a lot of people didn't even know how their bodies were put together. But now when you know how your body's put together, you want a child, you know what to do to make a child. You don't want a child, you also know what to do. It's not a random. And so now that's what nature allows, And the Caucasians, they were given the truth. And every time they're given the truth, rather than refining themselves, because Baaba's the reformer. When the Caucasians were given the truth about what they should do differently, they would be like, F the truth. And we're going to rewrite nature. So they wrote themselves right out of existence. So now when we are confronted with truth again, And you're not going to shame somebody. You're going to have to explain. Because it's like, you got to be a good person or else you're going to go to hell. They're not afraid of hell anymore. But when you explain how you can create a hell, and it might seem fun because, you know, you get with this person because she looks good or he looks good and you have sex and you don't understand the implications of genetics and you don't understand, then you walk out of there with an STD and you die, you know? When you understand, when somebody explains it to you like that, you're better equipped to make a wiser decision. When somebody just tells you you're a bad person for doing something you don't understand, it's going to be hard for you to adhere, because that's really not you need a chance to reform yourself. All right, so you may have unnatural thoughts. Some of us have natural thoughts, some of us have unnatural thoughts because unnatural things happen to us. So when you get the facts, you start to do, what is it called, neuroscience, and you start to create new pathways, and you actually get a new way of a new brain. All right, you get a whole new spirituality. But somebody has to take time to rewire and re-network. And that's what makes Baabaa so special. And that's why we call him the master teacher, because before him, none could do that. All right. And then with Baabaa taking the time and the patience and the care and the ashuk, and he explains things away, then that's how a lot of us can pick up that as well. All right. But some people, they're not gonna do it. So some people, they need to be shamed, and that's what those other extraterrestrials, they did to their creation to keep their animals in check, so to speak. But we're not just merely animal beings. Baabaa is unlocking the divinity in you, and he's trying to remind you of your divinity. He doesn't just want an animal person. And he had told me, he said to me, "You're not just an animal woman." That's what he has said. All right. So you treat people minds as divine. All right. And that's what you develop. And that's what these scrolls are doing. So as I'm reading it, that's what I'm seeing happening and what makes us different. So there's no need. That's money. 100. This is the deity they seek to make you worship as a forgiving and merciful. 101. A deity, their own Safahats, books, Bible, and Quran says he travels upward and came down to earth. 102. He is a being that moves inside a place, a space and time. So if God can come down from up there to down here, you just said God is omnipresent and all over. All right. But now you're showing God traveling. So now you're creating some type of confusion in my mind. What you're going to create a condition called cognitive dissonance. And that's when you can look at a fact and you learn to ignore it when it challenges your reality. They call that condition cognitive dissonance. And that is called the spell of sleep. All right. So now I'm creating a glitch in my brain. Now I just shut it down. All right. Just like any computer. So 103. To a same deity or heavenly father who loves Patapal, the world so much that he shows it by letting men crucify his only begotten son to nail him to a cross, that is how he shows love. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And he whoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. All right. That's love. All right. And then have Abraham going to kill his own son to be like, you love me, then give me your son. See, I love you, I gave you my son. That's all trickery. That's a deceptive, cruel God. All right. Because I'm not going to hurt something. If I love somebody, I can't hurt. If I love somebody, I'm not going to hurt what they love because I know it's going to hurt them. All right. And that's not how I show love anyway. 104. While others say he did not do that, he only played a game to make it look like that way. All right. So these religious people, rather than just saying, okay, you know what we did was a lie, what they do is they reformulate their lies. and twist it up like, okay, the people are catching up on. And it's like anybody who lies. And it's like, wait a minute, but you say you on this street, and weren't you on such and such lane? Like that didn't add up. Well, what really happened was, and then they get all confused and they pull you deeper and deeper. All right. So when they say some of these religious people, they say, well, Jesus didn't actually die. It was only made to look that way. All right. That's how they justify, keep the line going. 105. That is Muksasu, Christians, and Muslamu, Muslims, same deity. They both got from the Mudwawu, Jews. 106. The Muslim Quran claim Allah took Isa al-Misa ibn Maryam, or Jesus the Messiah, son of Mary, raised him up to himself in physical form. So Allah is up there in a place, just as their founder and warner, Ahmad bin Allah, or Mustafa Muhammad Alamin, claims he rode a donkey like a creature up to the seven heavens, where he actually spoke with dead prophets of the Bible and even met with and spoke to Allah from behind a screen or curtain. So Allah could be behind somewhere up there in the seventh heaven. All right. So it's talking about how these other special beings, they go and they ride this donkey and they have all these Aladdin stories. And Aladdin, I'm just picturing Aladdin flying on his carpet. It's the same sensationalism. All right, it's the same thing. All right, take the donkey away, put a carpet. Take Allah away and put Princess Jasmine. All right, so Allah can be behind somewhere up there in the seventh heaven. This is what they spread as facts and want you to devote your life to such nonsense. All right, don't devote yourself to nonsense. If somebody asks you about culture, you better be able to explain your culture. Don't just say, because it's my culture. Because our culture is animism. Our culture is facts. If you don't know the facts, then are you even living your culture? Or are you living the illusion of your culture? All right. You better be able to explain it. Because there's a lot of people, a lot of cultures that did really bad things. And then they say, well, why do you do that? Oh, why did you marry a 4-year-old? It's my culture. You can say that about anything. All right. Our things is rhyme and reason. It's reasonable, it's factual. We can explain to you why. What's the purpose? What's the outcome? What does it represent? What does it signify? And then also sometimes, depending on what you're facing at the time, your culture could shift to the circumstance you're in. All right. So your way of life may look a little different when you're in Antarctica versus when you're in Brazil, for example. Because is it going to be reasonable to wear a big coat in 93-degree weather? All right. Because it's your culture, you're going to have a heat stroke. So your culture should reason out. All right. 107. They read in English only or translate from other tongues with an English Anglo root for word meaning in their roots. So they never escape the lies of the liar, the bright one. Pa-kabat, the angel of Nawar light and Nawar fire. All right, that's what they call son of the morning star. They call Lucifer. All right, and they also call Jesus the bright morning star. All right, so now you know. And other people are talking about this, and Baba say you have to get past star worship. Stop being so starstruck. And one of my letters that I wrote Baba, I remember I was talking to him a certain way. He was like, can you stop? Just talk to me regular. I don't know. Maybe I was talking to him like he was in the Bible or something. But he's like, please don't do that to me. And I just talked to him regular. So, like, let's get real, you know? So, yeah. So you have Let's read that again. They read in English only and translate from other tongues with an English Anglo roots for words meaning in their roots. So they never escape the lies of the liar, the bright one, Pachapat, the angel of Nawar, lights, and Narar, fire. All right. So you still under the spell of blinding lights. All right. Now you can see it no matter what form it comes in, because now you know these Adamites mixed in with us. So you can have a sister and a brother sitting side by side. One's for you and one's not for you. All right. But are you still blinded by the light? Or can you go behind the light so you can get to the root? Because when you get to the root, that's where the truth is. All right. Because I could put on this and all that, and I could be a big devil, right? And then you could have someone who's helping you right next to, and they sharing the same image. So you better not be starstruck, not at this point, not in 2025, or you're going to be food for the gods. 108. They only deceive their own selves and those who gather around them, for in all they claim to know, they know that they actually know nothing. 109. You ask them, what does this word mean in this or that holy book? 110. They claim from an Anglo. Heart means. They claim from an Anglo heart it means this or that. Let me see. They claim from an Anglo heart. Okay, let's just say definition, because I'm not sure if there's a typo. They claim from an Anglo meaning it means this or that. Not knowing, all they do is repeat what the Anglo put in their hearts when they were little babies. And that's another thing I don't take for granted. I know what Bob was talking about. Sometimes Baba will write me, but then I had to always say what you mean by that, because I was always concerned that being misunderstood is I don't know what you mean by that. I know what I think about that. So you need to explain a little bit more, because every person that you run into, they're working with their own definition of words in their head. And a lot of times you have to take time to go beneath it, because sometimes what's communicated is not necessarily what's received. All right. And a lot of times we rewrite Baba. When you read the scroll, it's called the apostates and the emotions. And based on your own interpretations of what was programmed in you, you will take your emotions, will make you go and reinterpret the scroll, and then go and change it up. And you may not even know that you're doing that. So that's the great thing about asking questions, because you have crystal clarity. All right. Because sometimes you could walk away, you thought that the person got it, and y'all walking away with a whole different understanding from each other, a whole different comprehension. And that's why learning is not, you don't want to sit there and be preached to. Teaching is an active thing, and it calls for question and answer. That's why in Baba's earlier books, he was trying to retrain us to learn to start asking questions. So that's why in a lot of his books is always written as a question, because the book always started as a question. Some people, they just went and it's like, okay. And they just sit there and they look at Baba blank and they're like, tell me something. And then they're like, tell me something about what, So that's the thing. You start asking questions, because when somebody says modest, what do you mean by modest? I don't know what that means, because we could have different definitions. Because I'm telling you, I'm not going to be putting that thing all over my head, and I need some sun. All right. Because, Muslims in a lot of these countries, they suffer from different things like crickets, because they don't absorb enough sun. So I'm not going to do anything that I think is detrimental. But explain to me. I'm listening. And maybe we ask questions. Because another thing that happened, Bob had to explain, because he knows, he talked about also when you go into the sun and you look at the sun and it charges your solar panels. He knew somebody always takes it to extreme, because it probably happened to him to some degree. Somebody probably did that. He said, no, it doesn't mean go stare at the sun because it's going to burn your corneas. It means like that's why you have eyelids. He had to say all that. But it's like the way somebody receives it. They might go and be like, I'm going to go sun gaze. And they're going to go high noon and stare at the sun. And that's based on things that were programmed in them and how they interpret it based on programs they already have. So that's something to consider. And Baba says waking up is a process. So a lot of people say that they're woke, but there's degrees of wokeness. And Baba said, until you're really even speaking the language, you're considered under a spell. And really, the children are the ones who are really going to know the language because we'll be interpreting it. But for them, that'll be their first language. So it tells you that breaking the spell can be processed even generationally. All right. So that's why I ask questions, because I'm like, did I understand it right? You know. So 111 gave and taught them. So so you think, and that's another thing Bible says, a lot of times they implant things and you think that you're using your mind, but you're really out of your mind, and that's somebody else using your mind for you, and you don't even know it. All right. So 110, they claim from an Anglo heart it means this or that, not knowing all they do is repeat what the Anglo put in their hearts when they were little babies. So you don't even know. I don't know why I like Kraft macaroni and cheese. Maybe it's the commercials I saw when I was 4 or 5 years old. And I think that's what I really want. And I don't even want that. It's just a program. But I think I'm using my mind. And my ego won't let me know that I wasn't. All right. So 111 gave and taught and showed them their first words and tones. So that goes back. My first words and tones are not Miss Batia. My first words and tones are Anglo. All right. Program them to think and feel in tones of the Anglo race in English. All right. So the true meanings are really going to be from our children, not from us, Baba said. And that's something to consider. All right. And that's why you have patience for yourself and that I shook and with each other. All right. And you don't take for granted and sit on a high horse for something you're probably doing in a different way that you judging somebody else. And you don't even realize because that program is normalized it for you. But you could be a devil in a different way and not know it. So that's why you take time constantly read, because you're constantly reforming yourself. You can't just be like, I read that, I'm a great person now. And I'm not saying you're not a good person or a bad person. I'm just using those terms for lack of a good vocabulary. All right. But it's like, you don't say I'm good. Like, this is a medicine you'll have to take for the rest of your life. All right. Until we breed it out of us, that's going to probably take a good 4 generations. 112. So some of them, very few, study the Arab's tongue of Arabic, yet in their hearts, the roots are always the same meaning, Anglo-English. All right. So even though they took time to study the Arabic, at the roots, even though they learned it, at the root, it's still going to have Anglo-English. All right. And that's why Baba said that the children are only the children are going to know the true meaning of Ashuk. Because Ashuk doesn't really translate into English. That's just a divine love. What does that even mean, right? It doesn't really translate. But that's the best that we could do. To explain in a concept, an Anglo-English concept that we could comprehend. Because there's certain ideas that aren't really taught into English. But we do our best. All right. And in time, we create these reformations. And the child, they don't have that Anglo reference. All right. They just started with their fresh. Because for you, subconsciously, you'll always have your Anglo reference. So you can't say I'm out the spell. Because subconsciously, the spell will always be kind of a default in the background somewhere. All right. And that's where the Ashuk and working together. And that's why Baba said it's always about the children, all right? Because we've already partaked in these poisons, but are we thinking about the future, all right? So 113, so for when asked, what does Allah mean? They say from inside out, Allah is God, or Rab is Lord. Malik is king. Malika is queen. Islam is submit or peace. Shaitan is Satan. And devil is kafir, is disbeliever. All right. So Baba gave examples that they still will default back to explain something to themselves or to others in their mind. All right. So like when they say no God except Ptah, and they think of some man Ptah standing out, no God except, because they're taking our scroll and turning it back into a religion instead of asking what does Baba mean by that. But it's hard to explain to people when they already have this reference of some being that just created from nothing. So now they just take that image off and then they just put some masturbating deity. He ejaculates, and there it goes, right? And that's the best concept for people who's coming from a concept to understand, but it's not really the true meaning. All right, but that's the best meaning that people can get, because it's not limited to, and that's not really where it started from. But it would be hard for us because a part of us is always going to want to. It's already in your system, so a part of you always refers back to that, even subconsciously. Okay, so 114. All this is nothing more than replacing the English for the Arabic, and it is not what each word means. 115. And the Arabs, the bright ones as well, who are in agreement with the Caucasoids, will tell them over and over, you cannot translate the Quran. There is no true translation of the Quran or Arabic. All right. Now, Baba says that's not limited to Arabic. That's true for any language. You can't translate a meaning in its entirety without corrupting the meaning in some type of way. All right. For really any language. Because like for others who, I remember somebody was speaking another language, and they told a joke and they were laughing. And then I was like, I want to laugh too. And then they told the joke, but they said, all right, it's not as funny in English. They said, like, it's just not funny. And it really wasn't funny. But in the other language says, if you understood our language, you would laugh. But we agree it's not funny in English. All right. So the Arabs, the bright ones as well, who are in agreement with the Caucasoids, would tell them over and over, you cannot translate the Quran. Yet there is no true translation of the Quran or Arabic. 116. That's morning. 116. Yet they hold up translations of the Quran or the Quran. All right. So they tell them, that's another technology. Oh, you can't translate. You really can't translate the Quran. But then they sell translated copies and tell you, you know. And also Baba's telling us, well, I'm doing the best I can to teach you about concepts of getting back to yourself. But until we learn our language, it still doesn't do it justice. But in the breath book was one where I saw Baba talking a little bit about that. He said that he feels like he did a great job of putting the Samai breath in a way that Western readers can relate. All right. But he thinks he did the justice. He did a good job of doing the best he can, of taking concepts and putting it in a way that the way that our mind and our language can convey an idea that really wasn't in that language. All right. So 117. So now you know how much of the lesson we're probably missing. All right. Or being overlooked. Even if Bob is doing a good job translating it, how it's being put to him, that how much of it are you actually picking up? So it really is for the children, and we have to get this to the children. That's why I read these scrolls in our camera up, because children tend to have a less attention span, and I am aware that there's few children that watch this. And if having a visual stimuli gives you two things to hone in on. So that's really why I camered up for children who might watch. Because as a child, I wasn't going to, putting on a TV would capture my attention more than putting on the radio. And I would sit there and watch my Mr. Rogers or whatever. All right. So it's the same thing. All right. So 117. And my beloved children, there are so many attempts, so many versions, yet the Arabs will tell them over and over, this one is incorrect and that one is wrong. 118. You cannot actually receive the real true the real true meaning of the Arabic of this book, the Quran. 119. Yet and still, our own race of Nagaru Negroids hold it up, preach from it, teach and claim it as the light of the world, blinded by its true lights and never seeing who it really is from. Now, mind you, people running around calling themselves the true light. What do? They blind you from where it's really from. Say, follow me. All right. And it sounds deep. It only sounds deep. I sound deep to people who haven't read. Who hasn't read this book yet. I sound deep, like, wow, she's deep. But in reality, it's just because I read it first. Once you read it, it's not that deep. And we're leveling the playing field. Because this knowledge, which was common sense before, all right, being the common sensibilities, now you can't exploit people. So we're just putting it out there. But it's time for the seal to be open so that the ones who know can't exploit the ones who don't know. And that's another thing Baabaa warned me about. Just because somebody knows better than you or they know more than you doesn't mean that they have your good intentions. And he tried to warn me because I remember I was so happy. I was like, oh, this person knew all about that. And I was writing him. And then he was like, anybody could look into something and memorize it. And then finally it clicked. I knew what he was talking about. So just because I'm reading the scroll, I could be a really messed up sister. I could be a good sister. You don't know. But necessarily, you could just know these facts, apply them to your life, and see where your genetics take you. All right. And stop looking for others to blindly lead you. Because Baaba's trying to turn your mind back on. All right. And I'm just connecting you to where you can connect to his. Just like I did. All right. So 120. A being called Anur, which means the same as Anwar or Nawar and Nar, are the same described, not translated, yet described. A description. It means lights and fire. As they say it, or them, and point to fire as Anar, the lights as Anar, or Anur, Anur. And they claim this Allah is Anur, or Anar. All right. So they claim that for those of us who are from that school. All right. There's many schools, but if you're not from the school, just relate it. All right. So they call Allah the lights. All right. Which is a description. So 121. And knowing by our own akal mind that before there were man-made lights, there were only fire as lights. 122. Knowing by your own akalat minds that in the Zamatat days and Rakutat times of their claimed prophets, they read and wrote by firelights. All right, so they put the candlelight. I got my candle. Oh, you can't see it. But I have a nice candle. I got for somebody gave it to me for Christmas, and it smells really good. But that was our light. You know, now it's for aesthetics and the mood, set the mood. All right. So that was our light, right? It was 5. 123. When they say the light anar or nawar light, they mean also anar or narar fire, one and the same. 124. And the Arabs were born out of the seed of the Hebrew named Abraham, a Chaldean of Ur or Persia, All right. So now when you like, and Bobby has to keep hitting his home, because a lot of us Christian brothers and sisters, when we're like, you know what, I'm looking for my own culture, and then somebody tries to bring you Islam, that you realize it's just keeping you to the same family, because Arabs and Christians, they don't deny that Abraham, they both go back to Abraham. You're still dealing with Abraham's blood, and the Chaldean, the same prophets, the same God, the same spirit force. So you're jumping out of one pot. You just jumping into a different pot of the same God. All right. And now also, I'm gonna go a step further. Now when you see how that spirit force operates, now when you say, you know, I think I'm done with these, what do you call it, Adamite religions. Now when somebody takes that Adamite, when they take that Adamite pattern and they try to apply it to something cultural, now you could see, no, you're not gonna reinvent this Adamite doctrine that I just put back. All right. To get me blindly. You're not gonna do that to me again. Because I can see you now in any version that you're coming in. All right. The same way they try to reinvent their Chaldean gods. All right. And they did a good job, but fool me twice, shame on me. All right. So 125. Then no, Arabic is from Hebrew, and the words are the same with slight alterations to confuse the unknowing. All right. I don't care if you were here for 1 week. I don't care if you were here for 20 years. I don't care if you were here for 40 years. All right. And Baba has another scroll. We'll read that where Baba goes into that too. Truth is truth. All right. And there's a lot of times where somebody could take time and investigate and get to a fact a lot faster than somebody could be working through a belief for years. You know, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long you knew the fact. Do you know the fact now? All right. And these are facts that we're learning together. All right. Because Baba didn't open this seal until 2000. All right. And he didn't start to put this out until he was taken away from us, which he explains. Because when he was taken away from us before then, he was giving the people what they wanted until they could learn to want what he had to give. So they have to get to know him all over again, because what he really came to give, he was separated with just his pen and paper and silence. And he got to actually put out. And that was where the miracle was. So that's why it was actually part of the whole plan, because he explained that he wouldn't have been able to do that. So it was actually an Adaudi's plan to separate him. All right. So when people said they know him, they're lying. All right. They're getting to know him all over again, because who they thought that they knew was what they wanted. All right. So we're getting these actual facts, Patsarak, and all that at the same time. All right. 126. Without Abraham, the Hebrew, there would not have been Muhammad. Without Moses and the Torah, there would have not been the Quran. 127. So without Akkadian, there would not have been Hebrew. 128. And without Hebrew, there would not have existed Arabic. 129. All from the same root. All right. So now I'm thinking about something as simple as the Rastafarians, and they always talk about Solomon and all these religious things. So now what they did, they made the Bible cultural. But how can you have Rastafarianism without the Old Testament? So now you start to be able to recognize. So now whether you culturalize something, all right, to put it into a palate that the people will eat, because that's what McDonald's does and all these places do. What they do is that when they go to another place, they have to change the palate. So if you eat McDonald's in America, it's not exactly the same as McDonald's in Japan. It's not the exact same as McDonald's in Nigeria. All right. So out of curiosity, for example, I just went to the what is it called? What's the name of that place? Popeye, not Popeyes. KFC. I went to KFC in Nigeria. Chicken is very much different. It's a different seasoning because they have to tailor the palate to who's going to consume it. All right. So now a person can't do that to you anymore because you'll see it, because you're not blinded by the blinding light. You're going behind you're an animist now. So no matter somebody come and dress it up the way that you would normally eat it, you're not going to eat it. All right. 130. And my own Salal race was fed from Arabs what they only learned from Hebrews, the lights, the brightness of books revealed by fire, flames, and burning bush. 131. Or Kabatats, angels of light, which is fire, bright beings appeared to them with lights. 132. The light of the world. 133. And what will make you my Shakasu people to know what and who is this bright one? All right. Do you even know what and who this is? All right. I remember Bob saying the more spooky and the more unattainable something is, the more people like it. Was it the Breath Book? So the Breath Book, okay, now we know about all these spaceships and things that's being confirmed now. All right. Now, Bob was talking about things in a time where he said that in time you'll see it confirmed the same way that at one time, if you had a cell phone, you're walking around with a computer in your pocket. That'd be a foreign concept. How do you explain that to somebody from the 1960s? Right? There's no such thing. There wasn't even the internet until the 1990s. So how do you explain that? And how do they look into it? You know, certain things like we'll just have to see. Time will tell. All right. But there's certain things that they had the power to look into. And Bob commented on that. What people have the power to look into, they don't want to. They want the things that they can't explain. All right. They can tell you all about the inside of, what's his name? Anu's spaceship. They could tell you all about the spaceship, something they never seen. But they can't tell you how their lungs are put together and they breathe every day. All right. So that's part of the spell. All right. And it's not to say that things won't uncover in time, but you'll see the way people are wired, that you have to take the responsibility for the facts you do know, and do you apply them? Or do you like being spell blinded? And what else do you want to believe? Because I remember Baba asked that. So what else do you guys want to believe in? All right. So, for example, something could be true, but until I confirm it, it's still considered a belief. So, for example, when I read the Breath book, I left it. I was comfortable with it as a belief, for example, because I read the book. It was cool. But I want to know what that book says. So I just threw that book aside. I read it real quick. And it was like, oh, yeah, I know something about it. Like, and then when I went back and I read the Breath book years later, I was like, you know what? Let me see what he's talking about. Let me go and apply it. And the confirmations came. I was like, oh my gosh. And that's where the explosions went off. It wasn't just words on paper. Like, it was when you actually applied it, or you see it, or you confirm it. Something in your genetics go off. And then you see it working in your life. And when you can see it working, that becomes a confirmation. So it doesn't just mean going on the internet and seeing things, but things that you can actually apply in your daily life and you see. And a lot of us, we prefer to be spooky, all right, because we want to be deep, all right? We don't want to be real. So it's about the ultimate reality. So 134, the angel of light who spoke to Moses from a bush of unnatural fire. 135, their own books teach that he was called Halil, or Lucifer, the torchbearer, the one who comes with the lights. 136, I asked, how did you fall, or how art thou fallen from above? Or heaven, O Lucifer, Soal, son of the morning, the briar of star, the briar of lights. I think it says bringer. That's Mooney. The bringer of lights. All right. Which is in fact fire. I'm thinking I can hear Jay-Z's song playing. Lucifer, son of a morning, I'm gonna chase you out of her. All right. But yeah, he's referencing those scriptures. So which is in fact fire, who is the son of the morning lights, in Isaiah chapter 14 verses 12 through 15, if you like to go and reference the Bible. 137. And is also called the light of the Tapal world, and is also said of Jesus or Yahshua, Isa. All right. In Revelations chapter 22, verses 16 reads, I have sent my angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root of the offspring of David and the bright and morning star. And 138, and the records of this bright one. And John chapter 1, verses 4 through 5 reads, in him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in the dark, and the darkness comprehended it not. All right. And this person, John himself, was not the light, as Moses himself was the light, and Muhammad himself was not the light. It says in John chapter 1, verses 7, the same for the witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. All right. So you witness the light. Listen, I could witness the light. I could go to a show in Vegas, and I look at the lights and the smoke screens, and I witness the light, and I believe. And that's the whole purpose of the light, to cause a belief. Because it's like, oh my gosh, the people were floating. And then I saw this, and I saw that, and then you realize it was just smoke and lights. All right. So that's why Baba takes us behind the 9-ball. All right. The 9-ball Baba explains in other, I think, circle of existence. The 9-ball is actually the sun, a circle, because 9 and a circle is interchangeable. And then you go behind the sun, because you can have good sons and you can have evil sons. That's why Baba said half of his children are devils and half of them are divine. Something like that, he said. Because that's the divine balancement. So same thing with our people. Some of our people are for us. Some of them are not. But are you blinded by the light, or do you go behind the light? All right. So Baba says, stop being so starstruck. So when I was talking to Baba, maybe I was talking to him like I was starstruck. Then he said, can you talk to me regular, please? And then to break the spell, talk to anybody regular. So if I could talk to Baba regular, I'm sure I'm not going to be starstruck over you. All right. So 139. This bright one, the angel of light, this bringer of light, which was fire of a burning bush, or angel of light, Lucifer. 140. So they all teach and preach the doctrine of the Luciferians and don't know it, for they don't know Anur, lights from Anur, fire being the same. All right. So Baba says that they're in the Luciferian doctrine and don't even know it. Some of them may know it, but for the most part, a lot of us don't know. So, for example, Rastafarians, they're like, oh, they don't know that they're still under the school of the same oppressive forces. They don't know. Some may know, but most don't know. All right. 141. It says also right before the blinded, Ayantui, eyes, in the Safahat books given to them. Another book that Baba says to read, he says to read The Art of War. All right. The Art of War is on his books, he says to read. It's a good book. Another book that Baba says to read. The first book Baba ever actually wrote me and told me to read was not even his book. He said, no, why don't you go check out this book? And it was The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And that book, it had, you'll see, you should read the book too, The Prophet, Khalil Gibran. It's a poetry book. It's good. And then, and the reason why I was bringing up the Art of War by Sun Tzu, because one of the tactics of when you go into war they said that you put you put your back towards the light so that those that your enemy faces you and you have the light, and then you blind them with the light, and now you can overtake their forces. All right, because they're looking into the light. So that's why Bible says we can actually see in the dark a lot better than we see in the light. All right, and sometimes it's distracting. The light is distracting because I was so surprised. There was this one sister, I was so surprised. Like when I got to know her, and I realized I'm not gonna put people on pedestals like that no more, but it's like I thought she was so beautiful. I mean, she's still beautiful. I mean, she's a good sister. She has had a lot, but you wouldn't have never thought. And it's like as I got to know her, like the girl was crazy, you know. So so it's like but you would never think because she had beautiful skin. She just looked like she just eat right. She do all the good stuff, and like really, she do all kind. She take all kind of substances, things you would never picture. So you don't be blinded by the light, you know. You go behind, like you look at you can see it, but you also have to consider and go behind it, ask the questions, get to know somebody. All right, get to know the information. And again, I like that term Baba uses. He says interrogate before integrate. All right, why? Because you don't want to be a victim of the lights. All right, so 141, because some lights are good, you know, some lights are bad, but in reality, the nature of light is to divide, as the prism scroll states. All right, so you'll never really get the true facts until you go behind the light, and that's in the darkness. That's where the masters sit, and some of us never get there. But now you know where where Bob is taking us. So 141, it says also right before their blinded ayantui eyes in the Safahat books given to them. All right, that's why I brought up the art of war. What are they blinded by? They're blinded by the light. When Sun Tzu, you go to war during when the sun is out, and you put yourself in front of the light, and you could take over your enemy a lot faster and easier because you can blind them with the light. That's what the Sun Tzu explains. So in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 14, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. All right, an angel of light. Bobby explained that another scroll. When you see angel, it's another way of saying angle. An angle of light or a degree of light. All right, just like when you look at the color spectrum, you will also have a degree because that's what a prism does. A prism does this. All right, and then you have a different angle of light, which takes you a different vibration. So Satan is merely an angel of light, like your every fellow brother and sister is. All right, because I have my likes, my dislikes, how I relate to life. I'm a light in myself in that sense. All right, but you're not. Yeah, we all have our own angles, an angle of light, angels. All right, so that's the angel. And some angels are good and some aren't. That's just the nature of a circle. All right. And this is Baba explained all this. All right. If you're hearing it for the first time, you're gonna catch up and you're gonna see Baba's talk more about it yourself. All right. 142. And I beheld Satan as lightning falling from heaven. It says he comes as lightning. And then read this as well. For as the lightning come out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. All right. We're probably going to stop at the end of this thought. And then we're going to wrap up. And we're going to come back together on Tuesday, because we're going to finish the scroll this week. We're going to read together on Tuesday and Wednesday. All right. And then we'll finish the scroll. And then we're going to go into our, depending on what's in the chat, I don't even know what people are talking about. We're going to address we're going to start reading the feminine scrolls, so you know what's expected of them as according to Baba's direction. All right. Not just little paragraphs taken out of context. All right. So we're going to read them scrolls, and we're going to elevate ourselves. All right, because I understand it's time to be more fashionable. You know, it's time to look like you care. And let's go back. Let's just continue reading. So, my beloved, where is this? Second Corinthians 142. And I beheld Satan as lightning falling from heaven. It says he comes to lightning, and they read this as well. So it says he comes as lightning. All right. And they read as well. So again, what is lightning? Lightning is light, it's fire. All right, electricity. For as the lightning come out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of Son of Man be. All right. 143. So, my beloved, don't listen to no half Arab, half Caucasoid, birth a child in Arabia or the East, that is light-skinned or bright, who came with Islam or Arab religion to bring me and you their lights, their holy book, the Quran, given by an angel of glowing light to an Arab in a dark cave named Ahmed in Arabia, a Mukwan being shining bright, an angel of fire, an angel of light. All right. So Baaba's telling you right there, somebody's bringing you back to that. You better not accept that. All right. Somebody gonna come inappropriately in my inbox, tell me to go cover my hair because I'm too beautiful. You better get used to my beauty. All right. Because I'm not covering my hair. My hair is meant to go up. All right. So 144.
You better not cover your hair. Don't you have no one tell you to cover your hair?
I'm
Cover
definitely
your
not
curls.
going to.
And the gospel you knew the sacred feminine, and what Baba told me in my letter, he said that we're not all, because it was a while back, but when I wrote him, before his mail got cut off all that time ago, he had said, I had sent him a picture of me, and I was dressed in a nice garb, but I was covered like from head to toe, even though like my neck may have been out, but that was it. Like everything else was covered, and my head was covered, and I had like a shawl. He's like, I like your outfit, but he said we're not Muslim. We're not all covered up like that. That's what he said. He said we don't dress like that. He said we don't dress like that. So I just wanted to say that just to add in.
Well, I appreciate that, Zamalta. And also, in other scrolls, we will definitely get to, it says that we don't underdress and we don't overdress because both brings unnecessary and negative attention. All right. But we'll go into that. So we're not going back to Islam. All right. And Baba 143, this scroll, we definitely not going back to Islam. All right. So 144. Who claims he was sent by Anur, the light, as his 93rd attribute, as the sun is 93 million miles away from the earth, and he claims to be Anur, and in their Quran, the 24th chapter today as Anur. All right, these are all claims. 145. The Kawak Taha, planet Earth, is 24. I'm laughing because in one of my letters, I was asking Baba a lot of questions. I was like, you claimed XYZ. And you claimed, I was using that word, claimed. So when I read this, and then Baba said, he said, first off, I don't make claims, I am. But then he went on to explain the questions. He's like, I don't make claims, I am. But then he went and answered the questions. All right. So anybody could claim anything. But Baba could back it up, and Baba takes us behind the 9-ball if you ask the right questions. And also that many people lived what they wanted, not what he came to give. Because when he first came, Baba explained it in the revelations to the Sabians. He explained that when he was coming to give them what they wanted, they didn't want that. They wanted religion. So he gravitated to all the religions that his people were in to help explain it away. All right. So I didn't come in that particular school. I'm not saying that there's not degrees of religion, because we're still working through it. But people want to take you back. All right. We're not going to do that. All right. 145, the Kawak Taha, planet Earth, is 24,000 miles in circumference. So both Rakamat's numbers are true. All right. Oh, let me go back. 144. Who claims he was sent by Anor of the lights as the 93rd attribute, as the sun is 93 million miles away from the earth. And he claims to be Anor of the Quran, the 24th chapter today, as Anor. 145. The Kawak Taha, planet Earth, is 24,000 miles in circumference. So both Rakamat's numbers are used. 146. His attribute is the 93rd, as the sun is 93 million miles away from the earth as its light, and the earth is 24,000 miles in circumference. All right. So Bob is explaining why they set things up the way that they did. All right, and what they based the numbers on. But Bob is still showing you how it's still about burning in fire, and they're taking you, and he says, star worship, fire worship. All right. And now we understand why we're not fire worshipers, although we acknowledge things. Because I'm a woman, please acknowledge me for being a woman, but there's more to it, you know. There's a sun. We acknowledge the sun for what it does and how it grows. But it's like it goes beyond that. Because why is it put there? How is it put there? How does it work? What are these relationships between things? Because that's what ontology is. Ontology is understanding or comprehending the sciences behind the sciences. So how does this relate? How does this relate to this? How is that put together? How do things interact and all that? All right. You have to go beyond just that. All right. So how that sun was put together? Why was it put together? All right. The circumstances that brought it together. All right. And now you can go through the cycles, because every sun is going to eventually burn out. You know, that's just the nature of things that are born and things that go out. So you have fire children. That's the difference. And then you have golden children. All right. And then you're talking about a finite existence versus an infinite existence. And you don't want to be just in a fire. But when you have fire, you have Reye, and then you have Maye. That's, you have what you call the sun and water, and you have yellow. Baba explained this. This breakdown Baba gave in the Holy Tablets. You have yellow and blue, and that's where Al Qadir came from. So when the sun and water came together, that's the green one. All right. So these are different conditions, but it's not just the yellow. So it's not to say fire is evil, but there's a finite nature of fire where water has no birth date. All right. So it's so much, and we're not going to let people trap us, because that's how you trap the devil. All right. And you go into the fire, because when your time is up, your time's up. You go into the water, you recycle again, just in another state. All right. So 147. There is a whole chapter of 15 verses, chapter 91, Ash-Shams, that's called the sun. Yet it was originally chapter 26, as a 26,000 year procession every 26,000 year of the earth axis of the 24,000 year of equinox. This is another scroll to be explained more into this, is the cycles of life. No, what is it? Cycles. The cycles and ontology of time is going to break this down more, because right here Baba has explained the Quran, but Baba also explained in those scrolls Christianity. Why was it the 12 disciples? All right. And what they base it on, and what movements that originally was. Because you see in time how facts start out as facts and how it gets watered down in time. So we're taking a journey of the watering down of the facts. and where those facts actually came from. All right. So 148. Land 1 mile for each samat year of movement, and this being of light of fire, or anor, is known as in Abraham land as Ur. All right. So Ur is another way of saying fire. All right. So we see. Looks like a menorah, right? And then also in another scroll, Baabaa explains the menorah and it's linking also to the lungs. All right. Which Baabaa probably goes into in this scroll too. So, and then also when you're breathing in, the whole point, when you're breathing in, you're causing the light to the solar plexus, that inner sun, because the inner sun needs oxygen to burn. All right. And then it needs proper oxygenation for a certain fire that happens in the blood and the bloodstream. All right. So 149. And Nanar, the bright one, Pa Anaku, the Anunnaki, son of Enlil, master above, son of Anu, the most high Sumerian deity. All right. Now we also learned that we're also not Sumerian. All right. Now things happened to us. We got intermixed through time and all this. But Baaba's not leaving us there. We predate the Sumerians. All right. So 150. I think that's a good way. That's a good place to end. Because it's going to go into, we're going to go talking about the Sumerian. Yeah, we're going to pick up on 122 tomorrow on 140, verse 142, 143. All right. So we're going to continue to scroll on Tuesday. That's within 2 days. We're going to get back to at 12 o'clock. We're going to get through our scroll, which will help to, this scroll is meant to make us question and to also get out of the star worship and the various different stars and the different forms that it takes. All right. So does anybody have any comments on what we read? Anything in general before we wrap up for today?
Yeah, I've got a question, Zamaltat. You mentioned infinite existence and existence. What's the difference? I've never heard that term before, infinite existence.
Okay. So you have finite means limited, and then you have infinite. All right. Infinite means unlimited. So you've heard those two terms, right? Infinite and infinite.
Sure.
All right. So then you have existence, because you can exist in different ways. Like 6 ether exists, but it exists in a certain space and time, and when it's done, it's done. Where 9, for example, 9 ether, has the potential to exist in many different states and in different realms. So it just exists in a different state. So when you think of water, for example, water, they don't have a birthday for water. They don't know where water comes from. Well, they could see how it comes into existence, but there's no date for water. So what happens to water? It just takes on different forms. So it could be in a gaseous state, it could be in a liquid state, it could be in a solid state. Whereas a fire eventually burns out. All right. So all fires are born, and it needs things to feed off of, and eventually it goes out. Whereas water would just change states, if that makes sense. So now you're talking about existing in different dimensions versus just in different ways. I don't know if I'm articulating it the way I want to, but did that kind of give you an idea? Because we could like suggest scrolls that talk about it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out, Zamaltat.
So you have something called finite, means a limit, and then you have unlimited existence. So for example, when you look at me, both could be true, so that's why we live by soul. But eventually my body's going to expire. So you'll be able to carbon date my body because it's a burning. So eventually this body expires. But the actual a golden child, for example, they're more than just what's up, Quali? I see you unmuted. Uh, you sound for for some reason I hear you, but you just sound like buzzing.
Do I sound like I'm far away?
Oh, that's much better. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so yeah, no, I was just saying I hit the unmute button, but then you started back talking, so I didn't want to cut you off or be rude.
Oh no.
I had been listening though, and when you're saying finite and infinite, are you meaning like finite or that's the same word, right?
Yes,
Finite. So like, are
finite.
you saying like you have a finite amount of existence and then you have infinite existence, something that was always there that continues to create, and then are you saying like you have something that comes into creation?
Right, right. That's a good way. So finite. So finite means that's a limit, and then after a certain time, you run out of ingredients, and then your time is up. And then you have infinite, those who can cycle in their many forms. So that's why Baba said that's the difference between evolution,
90 and 60.
yeah, 90th and
So
60th. Mm-hmm.
so like when they say so like when they say like you're I'm sorry if it's in and out. Like I said, I'm at work. Um
Mm-hmm.
so like when they say like you can not necessarily, or yeah, I guess it is the word, channel into like different versions of yourself, like how sometimes I don't know if you've ever been around somebody and they'd be like I feel my grandmother's spirit on me right now, or I feel like my grandma is speaking through me. Is that kind of like what you mean when you say infinite existence? Because it's not like reincarnation, but like it's something channeling through you, through your vessel, but it's something of your, I guess, lineage or bloodline.
That's a good example of how it could play out. That's a great example because I remember Baba saying that's the difference between us. We are ancestral, but they deal with the brotherhood, whereas we deal
Hmm.
with our ancestral, right? Because they don't have that
Hmm.
ancestral link. They're always running from their ancestors, so they create their brotherhoods and fraternities. Um, but that's a great example that you gave. And then also, Baba also used interchangeably 6 ether, 9 ether, and 6 ether for evolution, and 9 ether for revolution. Because when you
Hmm.
think of something revolving, it's on a circle. When you think of
Yeah,
something on evolving, it's on a line. And when you come to the end of your last strand of evolution, you go extinct. So for us, we
right.
don't go extinct. We just change forms. We reform because we're
So
always
like
in touch
when,
with nature.
oh, okay. Another thing I was gonna ask was, because like I said, I'm at work. I had to put my phone down at one point. Will this whole reading that you did, will I be able to go back and play this again in the Telegram? Because I was really just sitting and listening to a lot, and he was answering some of the things I was gonna initially ask. So I wanted to go back and listen to the whole thing once I
Oh
got off
yeah,
this cruise.
we'll save
Okay.
it. We'll save it. We save everything that we do. We record and
Oh,
save everything for the purpose of being able to revisit. Definitely.
okay. Because
Hmm.
I have a drive link that somebody sent me from Instagram of a lot of Malachi's books, but I notice like when I go on there sometimes like it'll say modified as if like they're adding stuff to it or taking stuff away. So I was also gonna ask like, is that why I'm seeing that, or would you not know?
Well, it does say at the back of the scrolls that if you, I don't know if this one says it. It says in the back, because I
I
mean,
don't
it's
have
still,
them physically though. I have them
yeah,
on the
yeah,
drive.
yeah. And some of the scrolls you'll see in the back of it, if any typographic errors are made, please bring it to our attention so we can correct them. It does say that in some of the scrolls, because at the end of the day, it's still people who put them together. Sometimes they could be a typo, and maybe they did modify it or something like that. But
Okay, cause
it,
like I bought it off somebody, so I didn't know if like they was going in sometimes taking certain scrolls out or re-editing them. Cause sometimes like when I would go back, like
I was reading one of them because I was trying to understand more of like what you was talking. I don't know if you was talking about it earlier. I just heard you say something about like the Moors, and I got one of his books, Who Was Noble Drew Ali, and like I was reading some of it, and then I tried to come back to it, and it was gone. So I had to DM the person where it went, and then it popped back up into my scrolls. And then he had another book. It was called Inky as the Creator, because I was trying to learn more about the the six ether and the nine ether and us, and just about where the whole Yakub creation thing. Because I was kind of confused. Like, is Yakub a real person, or is he like somebody from the cosmos, or is it a figure of speech?
Yeah.
So that's what I was
Uh,
asking.
yeah. That's good questions. I mean, when people start to share things, like, can somebody go and edit a scroll? Possibly, but that's the importance of uh continuing to study and read and investigate.
Mhm.
And you know, as far as I know, the scrolls aren't tampered with. If they're floating around the internet, can they be? I don't know. You know, it was what version you have. All of that is possible, but as long as we practice our critical thinking and we read multiple scrolls, because one thing I love about Baba is that he tends to repeat a lot,
Mhm.
so you'll see it in multiple scrolls. Um,
Yeah.
and it expands. So I would say in the beginning, uh, look at it with fresh eyes and, question it. You don't have to
Mhm.
just blindly accept, and as it makes sense, it'll start to, you ask your questions and work through it. That's actually, pretty healthy, you know.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
because a lot of what I have been reading from him, I'm like, okay, so now I'm able to put it into a perspective and like get a better understanding of it. Because sometimes I have certain friends like that ask me certain questions, and I always just tell people like, I would really advise you to look it up or read this book that I'm reading. But sometimes I'm like, well, maybe they're just asking a general question and not trying to, you know what I'm saying, go as deep into it as me, because I watch and read a lot of Malachi stuff when I can find it, and ever since I added into this group, I just try to just join in whenever I got time or whenever I'm free. So certain things I just be wanting to make sure I'm like on the correct path, because I'll read something of his, and then sometimes like in the past when I've watched like certain like podcasts or historical um things, I'll hear certain people say a piece of what he said and then take it somewhere far fetched. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to go back and read, but sometimes I don't know which scroll to read. So
Yeah.
that's why I was asking that too. But yeah, nah, I think you pretty much just answered what I needed. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. That's a good question, though. That's critical thinking. That's good, and that's what the scrolls are supposed to encourage us. Um, anybody else before we wrap up? And Zamaltat Sakamtat Hatat Ashastat.
Um, yeah, I think I get it now. So in infinite, meaning it's like more everlasting,
Yeah,
unlimited, and existence. There is a time ending to it in some form. As you said, your body exists now, but one day it will decompose, and then but your soul or your spirit hopefully is continuous. I think that's how I'm understanding it now.
yes. So you have existence on multiple realms, So you can have an infinite existence and you can have a finite existence or finite existence. So that was the difference. So one is more everlasting, and the ones that's everlasting is typically can what's that word called? De-densify itself, right? And a lot of us, we're so dense, and then we get trapped here, and we get trapped into a finite existence, like the scroll explained. That in the Quran, for example, in Islam, they make all these promises of wealth, of everything that's already here. So their idea of heaven is really earthbound. So it's like their existence, they can't really think outside of that, for example. So it's a finite mentality. Then you have an infinite, and you're going to relate on the dimension of where you need to be. All right. So, and some of us can't go past but a certain density or a certain level of formula or certain existence. So some of us are finite and some of us are infinite. And both existence coexist. So an example of a finite being and an infinite being would be the fire children versus the golden children, because the golden children represent infinite. All right, but then they get distracted by the fire children, who keep them trapped to a certain realm, known
Well,
as.
no, I was
And
saying Tag, I understand. Thank you.
I appreciate that. That was good. Good question. Um, anybody else? And then also feel free inside the chat if something that you know, because this is a circle. I'm reading the scroll that Baba wrote, and if things that you inspire, things that can help people that uh, that we're all studying and learning together. So and then if you have questions, of course. So I appreciate everybody coming together. If nobody else has anything to say, we could wrap up. All right. So we'll see everybody on Tuesday. We're gonna continue reading the scroll. What I'll do is I'll just share what we read so far in the chats after 9 o'clock when I mute the chats, and then it'll just be there for tomorrow as well. And then we're gonna continue reading the scroll on Tuesday, and then hopefully we'll finish it by Wednesday, which we should finish it. Maybe we'll even finish it by Tuesday. So with that being said, I shook my Sar Tower hat for coming together as we all work on ourselves to be better versions of ourselves in our one collective body. And Tawakun to everybody, all of us, Moisar, that's doing the best we can, and we're doing the work. So with that being said, I shook and Wadu.
Shook
Oh,
Wadu.
Shawty, I'll show you.
Wadu.